Disclaimer. Welcome to Two Cops, One Donut podcast. The views and opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Two Cops, One Donut, its host, or affiliates. The podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. We do not endorse any guests' opinions or actions discussed during the show. Any content provided by guests is of their own volition, and listeners are encouraged to form their own opinions. Furthermore, some content is graphic and has harsh language. Viewer discretion advised and is intended for mature audiences. Two Cops, One Donut and its host do not accept any liability for statements or actions taken by guests. Thank you for listening. All right, welcome back to Cops, One Donut. I'm your host, Sergeant Eric Levine. Today, I have with me special guest, Anthony Bandiero from Blue to Gold Training, and he is coming with a wealth of credibility. So I just want to throw this out there before I let him start talking. Harvard grad, law grad from Gonzaga.
Yep.
Practices law in Washington and New Jersey.
And now Idaho in Supreme Court.
Okay.
U.S. Supreme Court.
I didn't even get to former cop,
Right.
Retired out of Nevada Highway Patrol.
Yep. Nevada Highway Patrol Sergeant.
Okay. So we've got a cop that knows the law, that practices the law.
Right.
So how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, we've been talking with Blue to Gold for quite some time and just trying to make it work and get it going. And you know how it goes.
Yeah. And we've been blowing up in Texas. I just got done teaching for Texas DPS down in Waco.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then so had a little extra time and wanted to come by and see you.
Nice. Excellent. When tonight's focus, guys, or I should say this morning's focus, is going to be search and seizure and Constitution, which is your specialty.
Yes, it is.
Okay. It's funny that you mentioned Waco and we're talking about search and seizure in the Constitution, because if there was one place that really royally screwed up search and seizure in the Constitution, it was Waco, Texas, during what was that dude's name?
Koresh, not Koresh.
David Koresh, right?
No, was it? Yeah, David Koresh. Yeah.
Yeah. The loony dude that did the compound.
Now, I wanted to go out there and see the space and see what was there, what's there today. I don't know if that's kind of weird, but I just want to see like if it's actually rebuilt or something. But anyway. Yeah,
this is what I love about having the live feed, is they can tell me when something's messing up.
I think you sound fine, but they hear something different.
Yeah. So, all right, I just readjusted the mic.
Yeah.
Let me sure we're plugged in there. I'm not hearing any feedback in my headphones.
Yeah, so it sounds good. Maybe it's a connection on their end too.
Yeah. So, Two Cops, One Donut. It is not Monday. You were right. This is a bonus episode.
Yep.
We made it work. We are still going to have an episode Monday, so just be ready for that. And a matter of fact, I do have to get a hold of those guests to find out. Have you ever heard of the Pop Brothers?
No.
Okay, so the Pop Brothers, they go around and their big internet media thing is when the cops talk to you and start asking you about a crime, what should you do? And they have a slogan. It's shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So they're funny, but they're right. People ask me as a cop, like, what do you tell your family?
Of course.
So don't talk.
And don't consent.
Yeah. And don't consent to shit.
Yeah. I mean, there's always an exception to every rule. The reality is that sometimes doing that for a relatively minor issue can just make it a little worse for you, because the cops are going to take a one-sided story. However, the reality is, if you look, I'll just tell you, let's just be honest about it. If somebody messed up, they shouldn't talk and consent.
Right.
Even if they didn't mess up, but they're being accused of a serious issue, don't talk or consent. It's just the reality. I mean, you shouldn't dig your own grave.
Right. Sorry. I'm trying to see if there's a way I can adjust your name. I don't know if it's going to adjust everybody's name.
Yeah, it looks like that's probably the right way to do it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, we gotta.
It might be too late.
Yeah, it might be.
Well. That's okay. That's a compliment where I come from.
Yeah. We could just do this and nobody has any names.
Yeah, there we go.
If you want to know the names, then you're just going to have to log on. This is part of the issue when you're doing a live stream and you're trying to do things.
Yeah. And this is the second time I think you've done this?
Yeah, this is only the second time. Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. So, but let's get to you, sir. First and foremost, give everybody a little history lesson on what led you to law enforcement. I want them to understand who you are as a person, how you came about to have a life of service, so to speak,
Yep.
and go into that.
All right. So look, I'm born in New Jersey. That only matters because my mannerisms. I'm an Italian kid. I put my hands all over the place. How I've not been, charged with battery is beyond me, right? Just smacking into people. But my family moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, very, very young. I was 6 months old. Raised in Las Vegas, very poor family, and that matters because I was a very poor but very good student, and that's what got me into Harvard.
Oh,
And I have a master's and a bachelor's from Harvard, which is really good. They actually gave me almost a free ride. And while I was there, and my family is a lot of law enforcement. My uncle, my grandfather, who recently passed away at 94, he NYPD. He was my father, right? My father
yeah.
wasn't around too much, and he had a big influence on my life and gave me a lot of moral character and so forth. And so when I was at Harvard, I was a reserve officer at night to a small town, and that's back east. That's the Boston area. You don't do much as a reserve. They don't embrace reserves like the West Coast do because they see them as competition. So I did like traffic control, very minor things, no real police work. And then I went back to my hometown of Las Vegas. I was actually a lobbyist for a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah. And so I met my wife while lobbying, and I had to get a real job, health insurance and so forth. And so, because that was like a 1099.
yeah.
And so I joined the Nevada DPS, and I spent most of my time in Las Vegas. I also worked for a smaller department, Elko, Nevada, which is like in the middle of nowhere, Nevada. And then afterwards, I was teaching search and seizure on the side. Your guests, one thing I like them to know about me is that I'm an addict for search and seizure. I love it. I read it every single day. I love cases. I've always loved cases, and I would look around my department, and the sexiest guys on the block were the SWAT team guys, and the use of force guys, and they got all the love, and maybe they should,
Yeah.
but nobody really wanted to do the search and seizure stuff. And I started doing it, and I started reading case law. I think, like, for whatever reason, I have a brain for it. Like, I really understand what the courts want. And I get, like, like the Fourth Amendment only prohibits one type of search or seizure, and that's the unreasonable one. Well, what does that mean? And maybe we can get into that because I actually have a way to teach it.
Okay.
But the point is, like, I really knew what they meant by unreasonable, not just like the good faith argument reasonable. I just knew what they were looking for. So, and I would predict these cases and predict these outcomes, and I'd read these cases, or somebody would give me a fact pattern and say, what do you think about this, Anthony? And I would say, well, I think this is what the courts are going to look for. This is very young in my game here, and I would almost always be right. And so I'm like, all right, I got a knack for this. And so I wrote a book called The Search and Seizure Survival Guide. It has been proven to be very, very popular. Tens and tens of thousands of these books are purchased. And so and I have one for every state as well. Right. And yeah, there it is, Search and Seizure Guide. Yep. And it's on Amazon. It's also on Audible. It's on our Blue to Gold website. And for those listeners, if they're looking for the book, get it from bluetogold.com. It's the exact same price, includes free shipping, and you get some extra stuff with it. And you support Blue to Gold, and not support Bezos sending his girlfriend to the moon.
Right.
And so I wrote the book, and I was teaching search and seizure on the side, a little bit of side hustle, right? Because I was with the patrol.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I had a little side hustle, had a moonlighting agreement, and I'm like, and I was getting these like these departments signing up, and and I had like just got lucky. People like, all right, you have no resume necessarily besides the fact I'm a cop. And so I was like, all right, so I'm getting some traction. People like the way I was teaching it. And then I realized that in order to be at the top of my game, right, especially with the feds, like the feds aren't going to invite a guy in that just worked at the higher patrol and has, a Harvard degree, fine, but it's not a law degree. So I'm like, all right, I got to go to law school. So I went to law school, and I graduated, at the top of my class. I really worked hard because I wanted to be here, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be in the courtroom. And for those who, I'm a member of the U.S. Supreme Court, but that's an accomplishment. I'm not arguing cases for the U.S. Supreme Court. I would love to. Maybe I have it because.
Wait a minute. You're a member?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So that means I could argue a case before the U.S. Supreme Court.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you decide?
Well, I don't. So first of all, I would have to have a client, and I would have to petition the court for cert, right? So all
Right.
these cases that go
So
before.
once it's already gone through, it's already went
Mhm.
through the appellates and all that stuff,
Right.
and gets up there, and they're like, all right, it qualifies to be seen, and then you can be like, I'll pick that case up. Is that how that works?
Well, you would apply to the Supreme Court to take a case, and if they accepted it, you can be of counsel. You could be the theoretically, I could be the lawyer arguing a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. I have those qualifications.
Okay.
When I
Okay.
say qualifications, let's not hyperbole here, right? There's a lot of when you're at that level, like that is what you do, right?
Right.
And so, but it's just kind of cool because my dream is I don't think I'm ever going to be tapped to be like, Anthony, you're going to argue this case before the U.S. Supreme Court. Those odds are very
But you
low.
could be on the team.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I want to be on the team.
Yeah.
I want to be on the team. There's a few cases, there's a few issues going on right now that I would love for people maybe listening to this podcast, maybe another lawyer saying, actually, I do have a drone case that's going for the U.S. Supreme Court. I do have a technology case, and you know a lot about technology and how that intersects with the Fourth Amendment. I would love to be tapped into those cases.
Okay, let's go to the comment section. One of the cool parts about trying these live stream podcasts that we're doing here, especially the educational ones, is we get to have incoming questions live while they're hearing this stuff, or comments. And some of them actually, are really good. Mike Cucumber is one of our regulars, I should say. And he'll give us as much shit as we give out sometimes to kind of hold us accountable. I like it. He said, just because the courts are looking at it or looking for it doesn't make it right. It should be what the Constitution is looking for. What do you say to that?
Well, I say, if you know what that is, then you are better than me. I mean, in other words, if you're saying you know exactly what the Constitution is looking for, then you are the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, because people will argue. I mean, look at Second Amendment.
Don't even get me started about the Second Amendment.
Easiest thing in the world. To me, it looks like it's black and white.
Totally. I think I went to 7-Eleven today and got a coffee. I believe that Glock switches should be sold at 7-Eleven. I'm just saying,
according to the whole point, and you know this stuff better than me, but when I look at the Second Amendment, they didn't say, well, certain weapons. The whole point, the flavor behind it was so you can hold your government accountable.
That was the main purpose. They were not looking. They didn't need to pass an amendment to tell people they have a right for self-defense. That was a given. Okay, in America. Okay, everybody had muskets and so forth. It was because they were worried about having another king, right?
Yep.
But the point is it's easy to say, well, just comply with the Constitution. And I agree with that. Of course, I'm trying to. But what does that mean? I like to say, the Fourth Amendment has 54 words. And those 54 words at the end of the day are pretty ambiguous. It only prohibits one type of search or seizure. And I like to make a joke in my class. I'll say, who in the class is a follower, a connoisseur of colonial history, right? Who at least likes to listen about George Washington, Thomas, and so forth. And they're like, yeah, some people like, I kind of listen to those podcasts. And I said, me too. And I said, but I'll tell you, I've studied the founding fathers extensively, and they are the most lazy people I've ever studied, because they put these 54 words on a piece of parchment, and they had I'm like, Alex, you're telling me that James Madison, who wrote the Fourth Amendment, you're telling me he couldn't have taken 10 extra minutes to put in there the Carroll Doctrine?
Right.
The border search exception?
Yeah.
Anything about hot pursuit? Anything about drones? So the point is, these guys, I like to say, they just want to get out of Philadelphia. They're done with the convention, and they didn't want to go to the club. They want to go to the pub. And it's the same thing with the Second Amendment. I'm like, you telling me that James Madison couldn't have wrote anything about the AR-15?
Right.
So, it's easy to say just comply with the Constitution, but very smart people fight over every single day about what those words mean, right? A great example is the people, who, the right of the people to be secure, right? Well, who are the people? Because right now, the U.S. Supreme Court has held that anybody pretty much with any connection to the United States inside the interior is protected by the Fourth Amendment. Well, what about the Second Amendment? It says the same thing, the right of the people, right?
Yeah.
But they say that people here illegally don't have gun rights, which is the right answer. But why do they have Fourth Amendment rights? I'm just saying, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different people.
Yeah.
And, quite frankly, I'm not sure, like, if I was the justice, I don't think the Fourth Amendment fully applies to people here illegally, okay? That's a federal law. What does the federal law say? I think the Congress has more latitude. However, the Supreme Court has already made that decision. It applies to everybody with some connection in the interior of the United States. So, in other words, do you know Sicario?
Yes.
I'm like, if you're in the holding pen of the Border Patrol, you don't really got Fourth Amendment rights. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're out of here.
You're in limbo. Yeah.
But you make it past that point and you make it to the interior, then you get stopped by a guy like you. You got full Fourth Amendment rights. And I'm not saying we shouldn't act like that. I'm not saying that that's not the way to do business. But the point is, we can fight over what that means. So when people try to make it sound simpler than it is, I wish it was more simple. But the founding fathers are lazy. They put 54 words down, and now we have to fight over it.
That's such a unique way. I never heard it put that way.
Yeah,
and I never understood, or I never knew that argument for the Second Amendment. Yeah. You don't get it if you're not a citizen, but you get Fourth Amendment rights if you're not.
And it's actually one of the only amendments. The Second Amendment is the only amendment that the courts have said does not apply to illegal aliens.
Oh.
But yet the First Amendment does, the Fourth Amendment does, the Fifth Amendment does. They all apply except that one.
Weird.
It is weird.
Okay. All right. Going to the comments here. Kingslayer said, and he dropped $5 in the super chat. I left it up here.
Make sure you split it with me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kingslayer. He said, I was able to attend a Blue to Gold class. I loved it. I actually was able to ask him about Steagald disagreement. I watched all his videos.
I don't know what he's referring to about the Steagald disagreement. I know Steagald is he's referring to a Supreme Court case. Do you know about this case?
Not off the top of my head.
It's the one that says that if you have an arrest warrant for a person, you cannot go to a third party home and make that arrest, right?
Right.
That's that rule, right? But you could go to the first party. You could go to their domicile and enter that home with the arrest warrant to effectuate that arrest.
Okay, so we have this debate quite regularly. My understanding from a law enforcement perspective is I have to have something that I can articulate that person is in that home.
That's correct. You have to have a reason to believe they're currently present. But the standard is very, very low on that. So the way I teach it is you need three things to enter a home with an arrest warrant. You need a valid arrest warrant. You should make sure that the thing hasn't been pulled. The second thing is you need probable cause that is their domicile. Now that is, for my smart people watching out there, they'll say, well, Anthony, in the Fourth Circuit, we only require reasonable suspicion that's their home. Well, I'm going to, if that's the way you want to operate, fine. Yeah. But that's not really good business. I mean, why should we be kicking a guy's door in over reasonable suspicion that they live there? I teach that the Supreme Court really wants probable cause, and that just makes sense. But I do teach that you only need reasonable suspicion that they are currently present.
Okay.
Except the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit wants probable cause in that too. But the point is that that's very easy. The car's in the driveway. You know that they work day hours. They work a day. They have a day. They work at McDonald's during day.
It's their mailing address.
It's their mailing address. Yeah. They updated their license 2 months ago.
Yeah, I checked their social media page, and 2 days ago they were out front of the house.
And they should be home though, right? Exactly. Yeah. And you see the lights on and so forth. So then you can make a forced entry. Now, some states have more particular or more specific restrictions, like Texas. You cannot make a forced entry with that warrant unless it's
search warrant.
It's a felony.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we can't do it with a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Nevada, you can't kick a person's door in or force your way in, with a misdemeanor at night unless you have nighttime service. So
you shouldn't be doing a misdemeanor arrest warrant at night anyway.
Well, I'll tell you though. Okay, you're absolutely correct. But But what about the guy who is causing a disturbance in a neighborhood or whatever? You find out he also has a misdemeanor warrant. You don't really have exigency to enter his home, but he answers the door and he's like, "You ain't coming in my house," and he's causing neighborhood issues, whatever. And you have this misdemeanor warrant. It'd be nice just to grab him out.
Yeah.
And be like, you know what, you're going at least
subject of convenience. I get that.
Yeah. Just but as far as kicking doors in,
yeah, I'm not gonna go. All right, boys, let's get the team together. We're gonna. I'm not doing that for a misdemeanor. Going back over to the comments, I know these guys are gonna be going crazy today, especially having you on. The Don Dunpeel said, unfortunately, we see too many officers who try and build a case without the most important tool, which is active listening. Renee Harden, I love donuts, but only the fat-free ones. They don't exist.
No, they're called bagel. Well, bagel's not fat-free. That's a donut.
Okay.
That's a healthy donut, though.
Yeah. That's
healthier.
We disagree on what a donut is then, sir. Mm-hmm. Steve Wallace in the house. What's up? Mike Cucumber said, I am the smartest guy in the world. What is your take on flock cameras tracking people? That is actually a very modern question and is going through the shit right now.
Well, in Seattle, you mean? Or in Washington?
Yeah.
So here's my opinion on flock cameras. They do not implicate the Fourth Amendment at this point. And the reason why is that there are two searches under the Fourth Amendment, right? There's right of privacy and there's trespass.
Right. Sorry,
So
I'm just adjusting the mic cables.
That's fine. So the trespass does not this trespass argument, which is U.S. versus Jones, 2012, that does not apply to flock cameras because they're not conducting any trespass. You have to have a physical trespass in order to implicate that search. Now, they could arguably implicate a reasonable expectation of privacy, right? And that case is Katz. That's K-A-T-Z. That's U.S. Supreme Court, 1967. The problem is that, for the people who are saying that these are searches under the Fourth Amendment, is that you would have to, the cameras would have to be so intrusive that they are really giving government information that you just have a high level, a reasonable expectation of privacy. I don't think that's really, we're not there yet. Okay. There are a lot of flock cameras. They definitely can give you, they can share lifestyle and what time you go to work and, maybe what area of the neighborhood you're in. And it's just not there yet. I mean, it's just not there yet. Okay. There's way more intrusive things that the government does, that the courts have found that is not an expectation of privacy. So, but I will say this, okay, that one day there will be a time that.
Sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
There will be a time.
There will be a time when that the fusion centers, these crime centers and so forth will have so many cameras feeding into it, whether it is, flock, whether it's also the Nest cameras, or the Ring cameras, I should say, the cameras, the security cameras from private businesses. And these are all combined into this master feed.
Yeah.
That you will basically be able to track people from their door to other people's houses. And it almost would be like a virtual GPS.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have the technology now.
Right.
It's just that it's not really used to that degree on a wide scale. When that occurs, when we have that kind of level of surveillance, or at least close to that, that's when I think you have a viable argument. The flock cameras and the flock will just be part of the mesh.
Yeah.
But at that point, the government is going to have to answer some questions, and I think that they're going to have to say, maybe it is a police state type stuff, right? Which the Supreme Court, I think, is concerned about. That technology is, and they talk about this, that the technology is giving you information that there's just no way that was even conceivable when the Constitution was ratified. Now, of course, the founding fathers had no idea where this is all going. Okay, technology and so forth. They couldn't have, in a million years, believed that we could have, that we have that we actually have the capacity right now in 2025 to send a private person to the moon, right?
Yeah.
If you had enough money, right? So, but it's just that, and what happened in Washington with the flock camera, the Freedom of Information Act stuff, that's just, to me, an agency kind of caving on it, right? They're just saying, look, we don't want to have that battle. But also remember that Washington is one of the most restrictive states in the union, as far as they have a very deep-seated expectation of privacy in their constitution. So their protections are much higher than the Fourth Amendment. So you got to be careful with seeing stuff coming out of Washington and saying that must apply to Texas, because Texas does not have the same robust mentality on privacy.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I think that was a very well thought out question. This is somebody from your page. I'm going back through trying to catch up on the.
If they're from my page, they're probably hating on me.
Yeah.
I get more sovereign citizens.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, those, we should talk about sovereign citizens.
They beat me up in the chats, which is.
Oh, yeah. Tumbling diarrhea. I hope you never speak in front of the Supreme Court. I take that back. I hope you do, because you definitely blow it for your side.
Wait, what did he say?
He said, because you'll definitely blow it for your side. Oh, man. I didn't know you got the haters over in here.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, I'm here to share information. I really don't have any, I definitely don't have any hate on them at all. Like, I'm just, and I'm actually glad.
Well, you're getting love too. So.
I'm getting some love. Good. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. But I do, I like the fact that they are they're also, considering the Constitution. They're trying to have these arguments because, I do think that cops mess up, and I'm the first one to call it out.
Gotcha. Just going to the comments here. Please give me an update on the audio too. Can you see this cable here? Just push inward towards you. Yeah, there we go. Just checking connections and making sure, because I don't know whose mic it is that could be crackling. If it's getting feedback from any of our devices here. But all right, we've done what we can do.
Yeah, we've done what we can. We've moved the computers and the phones.
Yeah, everybody says the audio is good. It just has a slight crackle to it, but I'm not sure what it could be. So, Beckham, UK Han Live said a Freedom of Information request of flock camera data has shown and allowed tracking of people by stalkers. I've proven this with a FOIA in Indiana a month ago. So privacy violations, yes.
So what's the question there?
I don't know that it's a question as much as a statement that they think that it's a privacy violation because it has allowed stalkers to find people.
Well, that's a law issue. That's not a constitutional issue. Okay, if the government is giving out, location information for people's plates, they shouldn't be doing that. That's passed a law that says that your FOIA does not include other people's plates, right? I mean, it's the same thing with body worn cameras,
right?
We, really, the person we should have restrictions on. I got to be careful here because you got freedom of the press, but it's like if I call the police to my house because of a neighbor dispute, and they're, of course the body cam is rolling, and I bring them into my house. I really don't want members of the public to request that video and see inside my house. I really don't. I think it's a safety issue. I don't want them scoping up my house and seeing nice stuff they can steal. But at the same time, I also want transparency for how the police act, right? So I'm not smart enough and I haven't studied the issue about what that balance is, but that's what's going on here, okay? It's just, it's not a constitutional issue. It's a legal issue. Go to your legislature and say, hey, we don't want to give out the plate information to members of the public that are not that's not their car, and they have and they shouldn't have a right to it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, now, but back up. If you're a news reporter and you want to see like how much tracking is going on and so that's different. But as far as specific, like tell me where this car has been, no, they should not give that up.
Yes. Yeah. And something else to consider for the law enforcement side too is when you do these searches, there's a portion that tells you to list your reason for search and the case number associated,
right? Which
you should be doing, but officers need to be careful at the reasons that they're putting in there because some of them put in there contacted a CI or narcotics investigation. Like you're giving up, one, your identity as a narc officer, or two, you may be giving up a confidential informant.
Yeah.
Which is also dangerous. So you don't want to make those mistakes either.
I like what Mike says though. He says, just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I don't like you. Actually, that's a good comment because I feel the same way that like if somebody's on my channel and they disagree with me, but I think they respect me to a degree. Otherwise, if they thought I was a Looney Tune, they probably would just keep going. And I think I respect because I like that discussion and so forth.
Yeah. Kingslayer said I also don't want to be stalked by the police through flock camera tracking.
Yeah, but it's not stalking though. I mean, it's at the end of the day, if you're going to go through an intersection or you're going to go on the highway and go east on 80, it's not stalking to know that you went east on 80. It's just not. If that's the definition of stalking, then we all have been stalking, right? I mean, I'm just saying like what's the definition of stalking is a criminal intent. And just knowing that a car has done, quick trips back and forth to LA is not stalking.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I find a lot of the arguments I see in the chats is they don't know. I'm checking right now, Anthony. Different Anthony. Mm-hmm. They don't know the culpable mindsets of that people need to have for intent on crimes.
That's right.
So,
I mean, okay, you talked about, if a detective, right, in an undercover car follows a suspect for 8 hours straight, right, and is looking to see where this person is going. Are they going to the cannabis shops? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Are they going to known drug houses? Is that detective stalking? Of course not. If it was, then then cops are committing crimes every single day. Stalking has a criminal intent.
Right.
And that's, I'm just, so it's important to realize, have that perspective. I don't, I agree as a constitutional attorney that I don't want my government surveilling me. And, I would be, I would tell you that I would be a little unsettled if I found out that my government put a poll camera pointed at my front door for 18 months straight, like they did in a case out of Illinois. And I do think that has constitutional dimensions, right?
Yeah.
But if they put it up there for 2 weeks, probably not.
Yeah. Just going over to the chat, says as long as law enforcement isn't facing better accountability, flock is a very bad idea. Right now, cops can do what they want, and if they get caught, most of the time department change is you cut it in half here.
Yeah.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, Eric Levine, 2 Cops, 1 Donut. I'm out here currently on my military time, and I thought I'd take a second to kind of give a shout out to my sponsor, Peregrine. I've roughly got about 18 years of law enforcement under my belt, and I've seen a lot of really cool advancements in law enforcement. The biggest advancements in law enforcement, I think, are like fingerprints, DNA testing, and then more recently, I would say license plate readers. Those things have all changed the game in law enforcement. And now I think Peregrine is on that level that's going to change it up. But I've had people ask me, what is Peregrine? And I want to talk about that. Now, there's a caveat to it. Peregrine is so in-depth, I'm only going to talk about one small feature that it's able to do because I can't fit everything that they do in one little ad. All right, I'm going to take you on a little mental journey. So if you're law enforcement, you work for an agency, this is for you guys. So follow along with me. Imagine you're an investigator and you're working on a property crime. We'll say a property crime specifically like air conditioning thefts. That's a big one in Texas. You've had 2 cases this week alone. And typically speaking, unless you go talk to the other detectives that you work with, you're not going to know for at least a week or maybe a month or 2 that they also have AC thefts that are related to your thefts. In investigations, there's like this internal gap of sharing information. Here's where Peregrine starts to flip things on its head, so to speak. Peregrine can sift through your reports and start to identify the detectives and the cases that match the similar MO to your cases that you're working. And it can bridge that information and present it to you in an easy-to-read package. Well, hold on. It gets better, I promise. Peregrine can scan your CAD calls for related incidents and can even comb through suspect history in your report rating system, like RMS. It's able to match possible suspects based on the MO and the geographical locations. Oh, wait. The rabbit hole goes deeper. If you've got a suspect name, Peregrine has the ability to analyze your stored body cam videos and search for that suspect's name and find videos of them to give you the most up-to-date context with that suspect. And what's great about that, as an investigator, your body cam has the ability to geolocate. So you can see the latest locations, specifically where your suspect was last seen. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and all I wanted to do with it is tease you guys enough just to seek out more information. So please reach out to me personally, DM me, or reach out to peregrine.io and just tell them that Eric Levine from 2 Cops 1 Donut sent you. I don't endorse things I don't believe in, and I would stake my reputation on their product. Please check them out because I know it's going to change law enforcement.
Kind of get the idea though is just the accountability stuff, and I believe in accountability too. I mean, during the COVID pandemic, there were agencies that were using drones, and they were using it for thermal imaging. They were talking about, and one of the Dragonfly was the company that adapted their drones to actually read people's temperatures. And they were also using them to count, to measure distance between people. Wow. And then they had the PA system on there, and it said that they were there was a back east agency that wanted to use these, and if the drone measured that you were within 6 feet of each other, this is in public, it would over the PA say, separate. Can you imagine living in that town?
No. Oh,
and
miserable.
Miserable. So is that a constitutional issue? Probably reading the body heat is probably constitutional, right? Because it's something that you can't see with plain view. But measuring people is not. But yes, but that's mission creep. That is creepy.
Yeah.
And I think that if the message here is that agencies need to be respectful and also have a balance here with technology, then we're 100% agree.
Yep. Looking at the comments, Kingslayer said, yes, that detective is stalking. He intended to do actions. He's just legally allowed to stalk you. Well, then by your own definition, it's not stalking because it's legal.
It's not stalking because there's no criminal intent.
Yeah. To catch a criminal, maybe the intent.
Yeah. But it's not a criminal intent.
Right.
It's no mens rea.
Mike Cucumber said, I filed a complaint against my sheriff's department and had sheriffs stationed outside my neighborhood and workplace the following week when that never happened before. Coincidence? ?
Yeah. Look, I've seen stuff like that happen. And if it's true, then if they're doing that for intimidation, then that's, obviously not professional.
Right. Remove the cop element. The idea of how many cameras there are watching us at any given time is huge. Tesla cars, traffic control cameras, phone, road cameras, etc. Yeah.
It's true, right? And Tesla's watching you too, right? So,
shit, your phone's watching you.
Oh, unfortunately. So yeah. So, it's when it comes to the search and seizure stuff, right? I will tell you that the one thing that I have a passion about and I'm on a mission about is to try to teach the Fourth Amendment in a way that cops just get, because it's, and I'll tell you a good example is that a lot of officers believe, and since this is kind of in the theme in the comments here, right, is that, getting it wrong or whatever. It's just cops believe that if they mess up, if they violate the Constitution, but they didn't mean to, okay? They were trained that way or they made a mistake, but as long as they have good faith, that will get them out of legal trouble, right?
And that's what frustrates a lot of our audience is they think that cops good faith it intentionally knowing they have qualified immunity.
And I'll tell you my opinion on that. But I think your audience should know that there is no good faith exception. And my audience should know, the people that are, that push back on me too. There is no good faith exception under the Fourth Amendment for warrantless searches and seizures. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is if we have an officer who, chalks a door, like he's talking to somebody, over some neighbor dispute, and the suspect here is like, you know what, this is kind of BS. I'm done talking to you. And they want to close the door. They can do that unless there's exigency, which there probably wouldn't be, or a warrant. They can close the door. Now have officers, mistakenly put their foot in the door saying, look, I'm not done talking to you. And the answer is yes. I think I've done it, right? Because I didn't know better. And if I would have gotten sued on that, I probably, and I went to court and said, but Your Honor, I didn't mean to violate anybody's rights. I had good faith. That the court would say that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for what's called objective reasonableness. Were you objectively reasonable in what your actions are? Now, good faith applies to warranted searches and seizures, right? That ended up being defective. So I think the audience needs to know that the courts do have that mechanism. Now, qualified immunity, okay, we can definitely have a discussion about that, because qualified immunity is 100% legit in the sense of it makes sense. Okay,
I think it's broken.
It is broken. I'll tell you. We'll see if we agree on why it's broken. I'll tell you why I think it's broken. But the idea though is that when you have a debatable issue, and there is no cases or statute to tell the cops what to do, and they end up picking the wrong side of the equation, should the taxpayers really be on the hook for that? Like when even the judges weren't sure what the law is,
right?
Okay, and so the probably a great example is the GPS tracker. So there before Jones, this is the 2012 case. Before Jones, there were courts out there that held that putting a GPS tracker on a vehicle is a search under the Fourth Amendment, and it was a search under trespass. You still trying to fix the?
Yeah, I got one more idea.
Okay, you want me to keep talking?
Yeah, keep talking.
So But courts went back and forth. A lot of courts said it wasn't a search because there's no privacy and so forth. And so, but then then the Supreme Court says, look, it is a search. Those cops there were many or circuits and so forth, a few at least, that did not know they didn't decide on it, right?
Right.
So the cop is going to have to make a decision about whether or not is this court right about it, or is this court right? My courts haven't told me what to do. And then the Supreme Court ultimately held that it was a search. Let's say that they did put the tracker on the car. Should they really? I mean, they're just trying to figure out what the answer is. I mean, even judges are confused by it. And that's what qualified immunity is good for. Now, where it's broken, I will tell you where it's broken. And I don't know if your opinion is going to be this, but the part I don't like about it is that you have a court that says, you know what? The Constitution was violated. You shouldn't have done it. But because it wasn't clearly established.
Yes. We already agree.
Yep. You walk.
Yep.
You don't pay this person a dime. So I call that the one free by the apple problem. So you got this, and what I really don't like is, and I think it's unfair, is that you have this attorney who is suing the police, okay? And he's like, you violated the Constitution. And the court says, you are correct. And then the court says, but because you are blazing this trail that has never been blazed before, because you blaze this trail and it's never been clearly established, you don't get one dime, period. Get out of here. You don't get one dime because of qualified immunity, but the next guy behind you gets paid.
That's crazy. That's wrong.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
That part is wrong. I mean,
yeah.
It's so maybe the compromise is, some nominal damages here. Like, okay, attorney, you did prove to the court on behalf of your client that the Constitution was violated. You should get something for that. You should get rewarded for your hard work, because it is hard. And remember, when a attorney wins these cases, they're going up to an appellate level, whether it's a circuit level, a Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a lot of hard work. And then they get hit with no qualified immunity. So they leave out of all those, sometimes thousands of hours of legal work, they get nothing. That's not right.
Yeah. And then, okay, so another thing that again, guys, I'm not a lawyer, so luckily we have one and knows his shit. Another part that people, I don't know if they don't understand, or because of the, no previous cases that match it. But one of the things that people understand, they're like, get rid of qualified immunity. I'm like, listen, if a cop actually screws up criminally, and the judge says, yeah, you behaved criminally, you lose qualified immunity.
You have criminal charges.
Right. Yeah. So in that, you don't have QI anymore, correct?
That's not true.
That's not true?
No, because there was, I don't look, these are controversial in the sense of, even I think they're unfair, but there was a cop in California who stole money. and so not only did he get, charged, but they also sued. And it was a complicated case, but he got qualified immunity. He says that the court said it wasn't clearly established that under these facts he couldn't take the money, or it wasn't like a constitutional deprivation or something.
What?
Like that. Yeah, it was kind of stupid. But when you have criminal charges, usually you do have a deprivation of the Constitution. I'm just saying, you ask the question, is that true? You can actually have criminal acts and you can have qualified immunity.
Okay.
But it is rare.
Okay.
It is rare.
But that's one of the ways QI gets taken away. Possible.
For sure. Well, it's one of the ways you don't have, it's not taken. It's one way you don't have QI, because committing criminal, like battering somebody, right? That's probably the best example, is that when a cop, engages in street justice and so forth, that's obviously, not only is that battery, but oppression of the color of law, all these violations, but also it's clearly established that you can't thump on people without reason, without a use of force, Graham versus Connor analogy, right? So, you're gonna have a cop that goes to jail, hopefully, if they committed a crime or get charged and convicted, and you're gonna have an agency that pays money, which is the right answer.
Okay,
which is the right answer.
The Don Dunpeel said, I understand why qualified immunity was established to protect officers against frivolous lawsuits. It seems to me that officers are actually earning the lawsuits.
They do earn some lawsuits. I mean, look, I mean, I show these videos in my class. I show videos of officers violating clear law. Like, and these are cases that have not even been decided yet.
Yeah.
But I'm showing these cops these videos. I'm like, hey, look, do you think this cop did the right thing? We had a cop in California. He was responding to a fireworks complaint. And by the time he got there, the fireworks weren't being, shot off, whatever. But
was that the one that goes inside? Yes.
He says, I own this house, right?
Yeah.
And that cop clearly messed up.
Yeah.
Based on what we know about the case, right? I don't want to, if he calls him and says, Anthony, did you also know that they shot somebody? I'm like, I didn't know that. You didn't say anything about it. But the point is, based on what we see in that video, that's clearly established that you can't do that. And you should pay her money. Because if it happened to me, I want money too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was so egregious. Like how he thought he had any claim to be in that house was crazy. Beckham UK Han Live said, trying to get a prosecutor to press charges is a 1 in a million shot. Even having one cop charge another is rare. Rational basis does not apply to either situation, yet they try.
That's true. I mean, the reality is that it is very rare that prosecutors take criminal action against cops that do commit crimes in a literal sense. Okay. We're not, we're not talking about the big cases and so forth, but even the minor ones, it is rare. I mean, you'd be lying to say
like using NCIC to look up somebody that they're not, that's illegal. You can't.
I call that, running a background check on your babysitter is a crime, but you ain't going to get charged for that. And one of the reasons why all prosecutors have discretion, police have discretion. And, part of that discretion, there's often like bullet points that just kind of consider. And one of the things is, has this issue been resolved with another way? And agency discipline is part of justice. Like, if a person working at the car wash, does something illegal, their job usually is not going to resolve that issue. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, for example, maybe they get fired, but cops do have a real, the agencies with internal affairs do have a legitimate mechanism to punish police officers for their misconduct. And so that's just part of it, or they get fired and maybe that's, teaches them a lesson and so forth. But no, it's true. One
of the problems with hiring of police in general is these cops that get fired. We have no national registry with law enforcement. And I'm of the opinion we should have one.
Yeah.
If you leave under investigation, if you are allowed to resign, if you had criminal charges, whatever it is, like that should all be a part of a background check that we all have access to.
I agree. And so that was tried. I guess it hasn't been implemented yet, obviously, but
yeah, they started it and then it kind of they lost the federal funding for it or something like that.
Yeah, it fizzled out. But when you apply for a cop job, for most places are going to ask you, have you ever been a cop before? Why'd you leave? But let's be honest. I mean, there are a lot of small departments out there that are so desperate for personnel that they do hire people with checkered past, or people that are not completely being clean about what happened at the last agency.
Yeah.
At least that database would show them like, yeah, you did work for Mayberry PD. It did say, you were terminated. Let's call Mayberry and find that. Or, and there could be some, some information in that file that actually is, that's private, but that the new agency could see if they had a legitimate reason.
Yeah. Mr. Billfold, we actually had him on. He's one of our dedicated followers that he debated with Von Kleem from Force Science, if you know him at all. He goes to, he's also lawyer, he used to be a cop. His specialty is use of force.
Yep.
So he's always talking about use of force stuff, but they got in a debate live and discussed why they were for qualified immunity and not for qualified immunity.
Yep.
And to the point that you and I just agreed on, I think he logged in just a little late, but Mr. Billfold, we just discussed that this is the same thing we don't like about qualified immunity, is the minute factual difference to destroy the clearly established nature of violations. Oh, he was kneeling, not prone, different fact scenario, not clearly established.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have any comment, but yeah.
Yeah, so let's see here. Going to the internals affairs. If read some IA reports and compared the video with the report, 90% of the time, I thought I watched another video.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's talk about that. I think your audience, especially the non-police officers, need to appreciate this. That is absolutely true. The the vast majority of complaints by the public are absolutely embellished. Some are outright frivolous. Okay, these quote unquote victims of police brutality, misconduct, and so forth, absolutely for the majority are lying. Okay, I'm not saying that the event did not occur to some degree. Yeah, they were stopped by the police, but the language that they're saying that the cops are using or the way that they were treated, it's the vast majority is there's just embellishments in there. The body worn camera has absolutely fixed a lot of this issue. But how many times? I mean, you've been around for a minute, especially before body. Well, let's say in-car cameras. That's what I had in my day, right?
Yeah.
And I would tell this complainant, "Hey, look, I'm listening to you, and obviously making some serious allegations, but I do want you also to know that there is an in-car camera, and so the trooper's mic'd up. We're going to be able to hear what he says, and we're going to be able to see what he does. Is his video and audio going to be consistent with your accusations? And if not, do you want to edit and update your complaint?" And a lot of times they will do it. Sometimes they won't. But when you watch that video, it's almost always different.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I've noticed as a supervisor in the field, I would kind of try to squash some complaints before they get started. I'm like, now listen, I've got the technologies to this point now. I can go watch this body cam footage right now.
Yep.
Like I don't need to wait. So I'm going to go watch this. Before I do, just know that you're about to, basically sign a sworn statement.
Yeah.
And that's a crime if you're lying.
Yeah. If we can improve that, you committed perjury and so forth.
Yes. And every time I'm like, so what do you want to happen? And they don't want nothing to happen. So, Mr. Billfold said, why is it never discussed that the Supreme Court ignored the notwithstanding clause that was originally in the U.S. Code in 1983?
I actually don't know what he's talking about. If you want to put something more in there, and I teach 1983, but that particular, I'm not sure what the notwithstanding is referring to.
Okay,
without saying it.
I have no clue.
Yep.
I'm sure he's brought it up on here before, but I don't have the memory. I have a memory of a goldfish, so it doesn't help me. But Anthony, what about cops that embellish and the video shows something completely different?
We have a mechanism for that. The cops get in trouble for that. That's if that happens, the cops are held accountable. I mean, it's very rare that we have a cop who's caught lying who's not held accountable. It does. I mean, look, there's always exceptions to every rule. And if you want to talk about misconduct, let's talk about doctors. Okay, how many people are dying at the hands of malpractice? Okay, so I mean, I the number I heard last time, and I'm I don't hold me to it, but it's like 600,000 people are dying a year where there is some connection to malpractice. Okay, so yes, I'm not here, saying that the cops are perfect, but the profession of policing is absolutely, without a doubt, the most accountable profession on earth. No profession holds their people as accountable than police officers. No, I'm telling you, doctors don't, lawyers don't. My state bar, we have, I've seen it personally where lawyers are, embezzling funds and this and that, and they, and they act, they have, some unprofessional allegations, and so forth. And yeah, they get held kind of accountable, but it's not really very aggressive. Police departments, for the most part, are very, very aggressive with their IA programs and holding people accountable. Now, can they do a better job? Of course. But just tell me a profession that is like they have their own full-time IA guys investigating their own people and holding them accountable as much as law enforcement.
I think what the follow-up to that statement's going to be from some of the people in the crowd is they're not seeing that accountability. Where is that accountability? And I think it's something I've tried to bring up on here, that like just my one department alone that I'm at, every year that I've been there, it's been multiple people, but at least one person has been fired, charged every single year that I've been there. But that doesn't mean anything if it's not a common thing.
And it's also transparent. So that's probably one of the issues, is that because somebody mentioned that earlier, they talked about how, internal affairs or a person's personal record should be public record. And to a degree, that's true. I think, sustained findings and, stuff like that. I think that the public absolutely deserves to know. But there's a lot of stuff in there that probably is, it's it's not sustained. Or, I mean, how about, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Or do we think that other public, all public employees, just because you make an accusation against a public employee, that I should be able to go online and see all those accusations? What about, cops going through a messy divorce, and there's a lot of accusations in there, but they're not true. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think that, I think when I will say this and just kind of go off script here and just like a squirrel brain. When you put the public, whether it's politicians, whether it's the news media, community activists, when you put them into shoot, no shoot situations, they almost always come out saying what? Oh my God.
I had no idea.
I had no idea. I had no idea how to do your job, right? I didn't realize it was so stressful. They almost always do that. In fact, I'm a big proponent of putting those people into those, those use of force scenarios. It's kind of like this, okay? Yes, I believe in transparency. Trust me, I'm the first one, but be like, just realize that it's not all black and white. I mean, when you have a civilized society, but also as we get smarter and smarter, we have to realize that you can also victimize good police officers by just having a blanket statement. Everything should be transparent. And it's a lot of it is not really worthy of telling the public. It's private. It's just a personal employer thing. But the sustained misconducts and so forth should be transparent for sure.
Kingslayer said, how many cops who've illegally entered someone's home have been charged with breaking and entering?
I'm not aware of any. Usually what happens in those cases is it's going to be the use of forces, right? It's not going to be the actual entry, right? But it's going to be the use of force. But look, I got to tell you, I don't know if it's actually a burglary in a lot of these cases, because again, where's the intent?
Right.
If I'm going in there, let's just say, first of all, let's say illegally, right? Let's just say that illegally under the Constitution and so forth. But let's just say that I go to a house and it is a verbal dispute between the husband and wife, and the wife calls up and says, hey, my husband's getting out of control. He's been drinking like a fish. And can you guys just get over here and help me out over here? I gotta get him out. And okay, that's our allegation. There's no indication of battery and so forth, right? And he answers the door, will not let the cops in, and the cops just pushed away in. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably not correct with those bare facts, right? Now, according to some of the viewers, he should go to jail for burglary. He should go to jail for home invasion. The cop.
Yeah.
That's not the answer. Okay. The cop did not have criminal intent. He was not looking to steal anything. He was not looking to hurt anybody. He just wanted to help somebody. The way you handle that is with civil rights lawsuits. The way you handle that is with complaints and having a robust IA that does hold their people accountable. You retrain them. Okay, that's what I do. That's what I do for a living. I mean, I not only do I train people to try to not make these mistakes, but if they do make a mistake, bring me in and let me retrain this officer so they know that the rules of engagement.
Right. And that's these are common questions that come up repeatedly that I can only do my little cop-splain the best I know how. Mm-hmm. But I try to explain, you got to have the intent. The intent needs to be there for something criminal. And they're not meeting those elements. The other one, like when you arrest the wrong person, or, they'll say, well, that's kidnap. They're kidnapping him now because they didn't have a right to make the contact in the first place. Okay. So fruit of the poisonous tree, I get all that. Yeah. The stop was unjustified, whatever. Yep. But it's still not kidnapping because they put you in cuffs and he believes he has the right to arrest you. Mm-hmm. He's not there to physically take you and pull you away from somewhere with that criminal mindset that they need to have. He's there because he thinks he's doing a law enforcement action.
Yeah. You're not sending a guy to prison for 20 years for making an arrest that, in retrospect, lacked probable cause. And it's also the same thing as the Walmart loss prevention officer who detains you thinking that you were a thief, totally got the wrong guy. He messed up, and he locks you in, he takes you physically. So you need transportation for kidnapping. He transports you to, the loss prevention office or something like that.
Yeah.
The way you handle that is lawsuits, You handle that with complaints. You handle that with public disclosure. You don't send the loss prevention officer to prison for a crime he didn't commit. That's not a crime. That's not the intent was not to deprive somebody of their liberty for for an unlawful purpose like sexual assault and so forth. And so I just think people need to realize that a lot of these issues are not of constitutional dimension or criminal dimension. They're internal. They're just us as human beings trying to. We need to do better. Mm-hmm. We all agree on that. But let's not also send people to prison for 20 years for a crime they didn't commit. And it goes the other way too, by the way. We're not talking just about cops. Cops also need do a good job and make sure that they're not sending the public to jail for crimes they didn't commit. It is both ways.
Yeah. So Mr. Billfold sent me a message on Discord so he could clarify his 1983 question. So he says, the notwithstanding clause in the original 1871 text of 42 USC 1983 explicitly stated that the state laws couldn't block federal civil rights claims, meaning state immunities, like qualified immunity, were eliminated. But this crucial language was accidentally dropped during the 1874 compilation, leading to decades of legal debate, though some argue the original intent still voids these state defenses today, according to legal scholars.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the point of that as well as I would like to, but to me, I'm gathering that because the notwithstanding part didn't make it into the new bill, but the 1983 is a federal, we're in federal court on that. And we care about the federal constitution. So state claims usually don't affect those anyway. People oftentimes make state claims and federal claims in the same lawsuit. So I'm not sure, I'm just not sure if I'm really, maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand what he's talking about there. I haven't researched it, but if we're in federal court and you violate the Constitution, you get, and you don't have qualified immunity, you get jammed up. So maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. So I want to get into some of the common things that get brought up a lot with police work. And I'm going to lead this one off with an example.
Okay.
You got an officer pulls you over for speeding on the freeway. This is right down your alley. That's right. So you pull him over for speeding. You write him a warning. The officer is on a passenger side approach. Not that this makes a big difference, but passenger side approach comes up. All right, sir, I'm going to give you a warning. Here's your warning. It's written out.
Oh, okay.
Warning. Hands it over to him with the license. The guy grabs it and instantly drops it down onto the passenger seat. Attitude, no attitude. Mm-hmm. Really hard to tell from the video. The officer doesn't like it. Grabs the ID and the warning back. Goes, I'll be right back. Doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Goes back, writes the ticket.
Yep.
Comes back up to the car. Issues a citation.
Yep.
Obviously pissed off police incident there. But now the question is asked. The stop was technically over.
Well, that's going to be the question.
That's going to be the debate.
Mm-hmm.
The stop was over. And did the guy make an illegal search seizure by reaching in through the threshold of the vehicle, the window, and grabbing that guy's ID?
Well, this is funny because this is the qualified immunity debate, right? So if we're going to sue this officer and say, hey, you violated the Constitution, you unlawfully seized me. Well, the question is going to be, was it clearly established by handing him his license and that warning that the stop was legally terminated? And I got to tell you, you got to do some research on it, right? I mean, as a lawyer, you don't just, but I'll tell you that I don't like it. Okay. If one of my officers did that, I would, he would be called in. Okay. Because it is, at least if it's not legally over, which it probably is.
Yeah.
It is constructively over. Okay. And also I teach officers, do not, especially when the stop is already over. Okay. Don't change your enforcement at that point.
Emotionally.
Right. Because, and my grandfather, again, he was NYPD. He worked motors for a little bit. He was like, what do you expect these people to do after you give them a ticket? Like hug you? Thank you.
They're not happy.
They're not happy. Oh man. Thank God. I'm so glad I got a ticket today. Look, I've been pulled over and I don't get much, but I do have a lead foot, but I'm like, the last thing I'm like, man, please don't give me a ticket. Right. And if I do get a ticket, I'll probably be a little burnt, Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
No, but the point is that I think that the better legal argument at the end of the day, let's get qualified immunity out of it. Because, and can I just also tell you this? When I teach classes, I don't teach about qualified immunity really, because I think that's a cop out. When I talk to a lawyer,
no pun intended, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I talk to a lawyer and I say, hey, look, this is what I think the courts are looking for here, right? I think that once the cop handed his ID and his ticket to this guy, the stop is over.
That's it, yeah.
And then I'll have police attorneys, like advisors and so forth. Well, but we'll probably just get qualified immunity on that. I'm like,
that's your attitude.
That's your attitude. Yeah. And I got to tell you, nothing makes my blood boil more.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what a way you're saying like, you're just going to roll the dice on this. Like, don't you think your cops deserve to know at least what you think the answer is? What will the U.S. Supreme Court say?
Yeah.
If they're hit with this very question.
And this is what the audience with what we do, and that I'm on their side about, is that attitude that other cops won't even begin to accept that that's an attitude with any cop. No, cops don't have that attitude. I'm like, they don't? Mm-hmm. I'm like, because they sure as hell are being taught that way about saying, well, qualified immunity will save you on that. No, it should be based on, is it morally and ethically sound? Like, are you okay with what you just did? That's fine to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Drives me insane.
No, it drives me insane. In fact, I have a recent experience of that, but it's like, look, we get paid the big bucks here, okay? The lawyers in law enforcement, and in order to make these decisions, okay? Now, look, if there have been some lawyers that I've not worked with, but know of that have made the wrong decision, and I wish I try to fix them before I'm like, look, I think you're going to lose this. Why are you arguing this? Like, why not just capitulate?
Yeah.
Just pay this person money and get it over with. Okay. But they don't want to, because they have a culture of, but it's like, and there's times to fight.
Right.
But there's times when just be like, you know what? I think my cop messed up. Even though it might be qualified immunity, just pay the plaintiff some money. If this happened to you, you'd be probably thinking your rights are violated too. But I don't like it as a cop out. So it's a cop out. I don't like it. Just just acknowledge when the people's rights have been violated. Somebody's talking about the Texas the Kansas two-step. I'm familiar with that case, by the way. But,
okay, yeah, because I've got Rodriguez v. United States also pulled up, which is, I think that's what talks about exactly when a traffic stop is complete.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, let's be frank here. I mean, Rodriguez does not answer the question you asked. Handing that right. I could definitely see a court saying, well, also the explanation of the ticket is part of the stop.
Right.
In other words, if that officer, so what he did there is a little different. But if the officer is like, hey, I'm handing to you, but I'm also going to explain to you, and that's part of the traffic stop, the stop may not be over. That may be part of the mission. Rodriguez.
That's part of the argument that I made in that exact video, is the trooper is still in the window. Correct. Not even like stepped away to go turn or anything like that. Like, he's in the window.
Yeah.
His lights, he's still parked behind. I mean, so the argument can be made that he's still on the stop, but it's bullshit. We know it's bullshit.
It's all.
Yeah. It's a warning.
Well, and there's two different things going on there. Okay. Just the first thing is the stop over. That's Rodriguez. Rodriguez says that once the mission of the stop has been completed, the stop is over. Okay. The word is mission. And also the other thing is we have to diligently pursue the traffic stop. However, we don't have the cases. We don't know what circuit we're in and so forth, or to say when if that stop has been over. Has it been in reality over? Has it been in best practice over? Yes. If the guy doesn't want to hear your spiel about what court to go to and how, and what to do if you want to, not fight this and just get, go to traffic school. Well, actually, it was a warning, right? So, right. And maybe the cop would have been like, hey, just so you know, you only get one free warning from us. Okay, fine. We can debate that. But what happened also there, which was bad in your scenario, is the officer is really punishing that person for their speech.
Yes.
And we shouldn't be doing that. As I say at Blue to Gold, you focus on people's conduct, not their content. Okay. You really should not care. You do care, but you shouldn't care legally.
You're a human.
Of course. We care because I have feelings too, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm losing my hair. But the thing is, yes, it hurts. But I'm not going to change my opinion about what my enforcement action is on you. Because the thing is, one of the things that makes this country the best in the world is that we have a robust freedom of speech and don't care about what people say. As George Thompson said in Verbal Judo, we have the last act. They have the last say. Let them say whatever they want. But as long as they're doing what we want, and, the guy took the ticket, he didn't throw it on the ground, like he's going to ignore it. We have the last act. Give him his ticket and kick him loose.
Yeah, left it in his vehicle. Yeah, that's a pretty recent video that we shared that kind of blew up. So, and that was the debate. When was the stopover? What was it? And my personal opinion on it was this was an emotional based ticket, action, whatever you want to call it, and that us cops should not be making any decisions based on emotion. It should be the facts of the case. So
it should. I'll just give you an example. Okay. Maybe you find this interesting, but I was behind this car in Vegas, and it blew a yellow light. Okay. I mean, well, it tried to make the yellow, but it had a red. And so I pulled this guy over, a young man from California, and he starts giving me the riot act, right? Calling me a racist. Why you pull me over? You're targeting me. I didn't run the red light. And, I was kind of taken aback, right?
Had you even said anything yet?
Nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
of course.
Doesn't even know me. And, and by the way, it was at night. I didn't even know his race, by the way. I just to add to the facts, but it wouldn't matter, but I didn't know either. Right. So he gives me the riot act, and I go and I get his paperwork. He does what I want. Say what you want, do what I say. And he gives me his paperwork. I go run him. He, maybe a couple minor runs with the law, not a big deal. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back up to this because, okay, I'll tell you that when I was behind him, I was going to give him a warning, okay? Because it was a violation, but it wasn't egregious, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to him, make sure he's not drunk and so forth. He wasn't drunk. So I went back up to him. I said, sir, let me ask you a question. You don't know me. I don't know you. And, you said some pretty offensive stuff to me. So I said, why'd you give me the riot act? Like, why'd you just come off like, before I can even get a word out? He says, because, you guys are all the same. And he says, I'm from LA and I've been treated wrongly. And I said, what do you mean by treated wrongly? And he starts telling me some stories. And I said to him, if I first of all, I said, look, I don't know if, I don't have the other side of the story, but I said, if you're telling me the truth, I would hate cops too.
Yeah.
And I meant every word of it.
Yeah.
Because he's telling me some bad experiences.
Yeah.
Racial profiling, being beat on and searched unlawfully. I said, I absolutely. I said, if you're telling me the truth, I would hate cops too. And I said, before I pulled you over, I was going to give you a warning, and I'm still going to give you a warning because I really appreciate you telling me why you went off on me, I just appreciate the candor. And so I let him go. And I was hoping that maybe that's because, I always treat people with respect. I'm a good talker. And I believe that part of being a professional is being nice to people.
Yeah.
Like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, right?
Yeah.
There's a time to take out to be not nice, and so the thing is that people have their reasons and so forth. So
yeah,
discretion.
Mr. Billfold, I appreciate you putting that effort in on Discord. I'll have him take the time to read it and look into it deeper offline. I don't want to tie up our time reading into a big thing on that. But
yeah. And then City versus Houston versus Hill. I don't really think that's an accurate statement, quite frankly. Houston Hill protects people's conduct as speech. That's not really the case. Is about freedom of speech, and you cannot get hit with disorderly conduct just because you are, yelling at the police and so forth.
Right.
Okay, but I mean, it's obviously it's
right.
Similar, but it's still speech.
And that's something we've covered on here. Not the particular case law, but just in the spirit of this, catch-all crimes, disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct, stuff like that. Is you need to have a complaining party for one. You can't just, at least where I'm at, you can't just go and throw out you're disturbing the peace. How are you gonna articulate that when you and the cops are the only one out there?
Yeah, there's an argument for that. I mean, and there's also an argument for the both. But usually want a victim because how are you going to prove that case, right? I mean, You can't disturb a cop's peace. Is that necessarily true? Maybe not, but I get the point.
Yeah.
I get the point.
Yeah. Again, spirit.
Yeah. But I do want people to know that people's conduct can be regulated even if they are engaged in freedom of speech. And that's why I just think that I want to be careful with the Houston versus Hill, using that to kind of try to transform that into be like, oh, you can actually do what you want and just call it freedom of speech. I don't think that's what the person meant when they made that comment, but I want the users to know that police can take enforcement action on people's conduct, even if they're also engaged in a freedom of speech. We do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
If you have a protest downtown, but they're blocking traffic, throwing Molotov cocktails, flipping over cars, and while they're at the same time saying F the police, the F the police part is protected.
Right.
But not the Molotov.
Yeah. This is actually some good questions coming up here. I was hoping we'd get into. Mr. Billfold said that the biggest issue that he has with the traffic stop is, in fact, a seizure under the Fourth Amendment, but not treated as such.
Well, it is a seizure under Brendan.
Yeah, it's absolutely a seizure. Who's not treating it as a seizure? As soon as I turn my red and blues on and you start pulling over, it's a seizure.
Well, I'm glad you said that. At the point you pull over.
Yeah.
So, we know that if you don't pull over, it's not a seizure. But no, it's absolutely a seizure. And it's California versus Brendan.
Yeah. And then so this is what I wanted to get into with you. If someone has signed a ticket but hasn't been given their copy yet, can the cop pull the person out of the vehicle via PIN v. Mims, or does Rodriguez count that is an unlawful extension? But I want to get into just PIN v. Mims in general. So
that is, for some reason, that case Mims is the hot topic lately.
It's abused. I think it's abused.
I think so too. I'll ask you why it's abused. But okay, so let's establish what this case holds for. Okay, what's the proposition? So the proposition is that during a routine traffic stop, officers can order, hopefully politely, professionally. We don't want to de-escalate people, but cops can order a driver to get out of a vehicle during the traffic stop for two reasons. Number one, for officer safety. There was an officer safety component in Mims.
Correct.
I guess they saw like a gun in plain view once he got out. But they also did talk about de minimis. And that's where the problem is. The Supreme Court really gave us a why Mims was ordered out, but they ultimately upheld the order out under de minimis. De minimis is a Fourth Amendment doctrine that basically holds that some searches or seizures, in this case, a part of the seizure, some searches or seizures, it's just so de minimis that it's not going to be of constitutional dimension. In other words, if you had me stopped for a pedestrian violation and you said, sit on the curb, which they do in California every single day, okay? Cross your legs with the gang members and so forth. But they stopped these guys for flicking a cigarette, not obeying a crosswalk sign, and they say, sit on the sidewalk. It's de minimis. Okay. Now, if the guy doesn't want to do it, you're going to have to figure out what are you going to do with that? Right? You're going to arrest the guy and so forth. Who knows? I'm not, but the point is, it's really, and then the guy sits on the curb and he sues later and says, I'm suing the police department for telling me to sit on the curb. I'm suing the police department for telling me to get out of my car. It's de minimis. But, okay, when I teach this class, though, it's called Advanced Traffic Stops, I teach officers to have a good reason. Or I should say, have a legitimate reason.
Yeah, an articulable thing you can say, I saw this, I needed to get him out of the car.
Correct. Let's actually go back to your home state here, the great state of Texas.
My home state's Michigan.
Well,
but okay, this is where I call home now.
I won't hold that against you.
Yes, please don't.
Okay. I prefer Texas.
Yeah, I do too.
I like the Texas swagger. So we have here in Texas the Sandra Bland Act, which you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons we had this is we had a trooper who told Sandra Bland to get out of her car for really no good reason. Okay. She was smoking a cigarette. She wouldn't put a cigarette out and she gave him a little lip about getting a ticket. And just so, and actually I don't blame her one bit because her violation, according to what I know about the story, and if you know more, let me know. But she saw the trooper coming up hot on her ass and she quickly moved over to get out of his way. Now, he wasn't super close, but she saw that he was moving.
Yeah.
No lights or sirens. She did not make a turn. She did not use her signal, but she thought she was helping the trooper out. She got pulled over for that. Okay, fine. Okay. But also she got a ticket for that. I got to tell you, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be pissed because I'm trying to help you.
You're trying to do a good thing.
I'm trying to do a good thing and I'm getting a ticket. So she gives lip about that. And he says, you know what? Why don't you get out of the car now? And it goes back and forth. She gets arrested and she ends up hanging herself in the jail 3 days later and killing herself. So the point of that story is I look at that video and I teach that video. I say, look, does the trooper actually have the authority under Mims to order her out? The answer is yes. I do. I absolutely. Show me a case that says after the ticket is written, you can no longer order the person out. It doesn't exist. However, did he do the right thing? No, he did not.
Yeah. And that is like the way that I teach it and that I like to present it to officers is big picture stuff. Like, one, why are you getting them out of the car? If you can't answer that other than some emotional issue, you're in the wrong. And I want you to articulate an officer safety issue.
Totally.
I think you should have to. I think that should be how Penn v. Mims is.
Okay, now maybe, but also not just a safety issue, but also there's other. That's why I say legitimate. Like, what about just having a conversation with them, looking them in the eye, trying to maybe take them away from their other passengers so we can have right. So when you say,
but you also have an inkling that there's some sort of thing going on, and that
might
goes
not be safety though.
Yeah, true, might not be safety, but criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
correct
to me, criminal and safety issues. Like I get, like that makes sense, but a lot of these times we watch it. Like I said, I think it's heavily abused.
Well, it's ego.
It's ego. Yeah,
it's control.
Yeah, our last episode was all about ego.
No, we haven't. We do have a huge look. The problem we have a huge ego problem in our law enforcement profession because we have a lot of power. And don't think doctors don't have egos too. They have the biggest egos.
God complex,
and lawyers do too.
Yep,
because they're powerful people. They can affect people's lives. And with power comes responsibility. And can I tell you something, Mr. Donut?
Yeah. All right.
When I watch police videos, okay, which I do obviously all the time, right? The number one thing that really upsets me is when cops act like jerks.
Yes.
I hate it.
Yep.
And I get pissed, and I'm like, I think to myself, like, out of all the, because we do have a tough profession and it's tough to be on your A game in some of these calls because you're talking about human behaviors and so forth. But it's like, why are you treating people like dirt? And also, even if they're not a good person, even if they don't deserve your respect for their lifestyle, okay, there are a lot of people that we contact and we don't respect their lifestyle, but we respect them as a human being.
Yeah.
And also, like, I got to tell you, like, I walk into the DMV and if I get treated like dirt, I'm saying something, number one, because I'm past this. I'm at this age where I'm not going to take it anymore, right? And it's like, that's a DMV clerk who has probably a crappy job, not making six figures, doesn't have your pension and so forth. And I'm like, if I get pulled over or whatever, I see cops pulling over people, I don't care that you think that they don't have a good lifestyle. They're not living the moral care. That's probably why but they deserve to be treated with some respect.
Yeah.
Okay. And also it helps. People give consent searches. They waive Miranda. They treat you with respect. When you treat, and actually, I can prove that it works because when you look at gang officers that are really on their A game, how they talking to gang members, they ain't talking down to them. Oh, you POS.
No.
Well, your mother raised you wrong, huh? They're like, hey, man, hey, I'm not. Oh, they'll say this. I'm not trying to disrespect you, man. I'm not trying to disrespect. No disrespect. But can I ask you something? That type of stuff.
Yep, absolutely. This gets brought up quite a bit. I've argued against it. That Pennsylvania v. Mims, officer safety as a key part of its decision, lower circuit courts have removed from their decision. Second Circuit made a ruling saying cops can pull you out for any reason.
But look, that is true. Okay. And first of all, Mims, you got to read Mims as a lawyer. Okay. Mims is the Supreme Court is telling you why Mims was pulled out. Okay. There was a safety reason in that court case. Fine. That is the motive. That's what happened in Mims. But they did not say that you have to justify a safety reason to do it in the future. They said, this is why he did it. And the holding was that it was de minimis.
Right.
That it was just something that really wasn't of constitutional dimension, which means for lawyers that cops can do it without a reason, because that's what de minimis is. De minimis is when you do a search or seizure, you don't need to justify it.
Right.
Okay. And so it is what it is. Okay. However, the having the reason part is professional policing and it's de-escalation.
Yes, agreed. I can't remember exactly how it was worded in there, but it did say that they found under the Fourth Amendment that it is a minor inconvenience or something
Correct.
like
It's
that.
de minimis. That's what they mean.
Yeah.
De minimis.
Yeah.
And somebody's saying, yes, they did. No, they did not. Okay. They did not. That's not what the holding of the case is. The holding of that case is not officers may order a driver out of the vehicle with a legitimate officer safety reason. That's not what the holding of that case is. It's that they can do it because it's not that much more of an intrusion than the original stop.
It was a factor of the case, not a ruling of the case.
It was not a ruling. It's what they call dicta. Dicta is Latin for extra information. It's just telling you what their motive is, why they did what they did. But that's not as a lawyer, that's not what you need to hang your hat on. The holding of the case is de minimis.
Yeah. And guys, that's this is what makes the difference between us, me trying to argue some of this stuff with y'all, and somebody that does it and is trained in it.
I'll also tell you that I do like the last comment there. It's a minor inconvenience. I also think that an argument could be made that it's actually unsafe for cops to pull people out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we should have a reason. That's another reason why I tell cops to have a reason. Because to me, when I was a trooper,
I have the advantage.
100%. They're in their own coffin if they want to start blasting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like in Florida, it's common practice to unarm people. I don't know what that's a culture issue within some of them departments. Not all of Florida. I know not all Floridian cops do this, but every video I've seen where, especially like that lady that shoots the guy with his own gun trying to disarm him. And he was completely cooperative. Like everything was above and beyond. And
I will look, first of all, you're talking to one of the most avid Second Amendment advocates, out there. I believe I know clearly what the Second Amendment means, and so do you. We had that conversation, and the point is, disarming people is so disrespectful. First of all, you're treating this person literally like a criminal, and because to me, the people who have guns and are telling you about them, and that they have the proper paperwork, unless it's constitutional carry.
Just the fact that they're telling you
is 100%. I've never had a problem with a guy that says, "Hey," and he's sober and all this kind of stuff, right? 10 and 2. Hey, just to let you know, partner, I do got my gun on me. It's in my ankle holster or something like that. That's the last guy that's probably looking to kill me that day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also it introduces a safety issue when you touch their guns.
And I'm not going to lie, it does help me. You're less likely to get a ticket with me. I'm like, that was fucking awesome. Yeah. Mr. Billfold said, Pennsylvania v. Mims, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that during a lawful traffic stop, police officers can routinely order the driver to exit the vehicle. The court concluded that they need to ensure officer safety outweighs the minor inconvenience to the driver.
Correct. So you can just say officer safety and just call it a day.
Yeah. I still think you should. The best practices, we'll say, you should be articulating some sort of safety concern.
Or just anything legit.
Yeah, or a criminal. As far as that goes. Okay, I want to get into, we've been talking all about the Constitution, but particularly I want to get into search and seizure. You see cops training all across the nation. Now, I tend to lean that the bigger departments that have the bigger budgets, they get better training and they get to practice that training all the time. And that's why they tend to do better.
Yes. Versus
small town departments. And when I'm talking about small town departments, low population, low call loads, things like that. Guys, they're learning this stuff in the academy, and they haven't touched a search and seizure in 2 years since they graduated the academy. And all of a sudden now they're expected to remember and know how to practice what they learned. And they're screwing up. They're putting their foot in doorways. They're doing all these different things. Searching cars, that's it, on traffic stops, illegally, all that stuff. So in your experience now, how rampant is the issue with improper search and seizure?
Yep.
And what are we doing to fix it?
I feel like the Pennsylvania Mims thing is like the ongoing. It'll never end.
Oh, bro, you're never going to.
The only thing I'll say, I think somebody said something about, I said officer safety or something else. I think somebody took offense to that. I'll just give you an example. I think that's what they're saying. They're getting all pissed off about is like if you had let's say you have an older guy in a car and a young female in the passenger seat, and you think that there's something going on there, something nefarious, human trafficking.
Human trafficking. Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay? You should get that guy out of the car and have a conversation with
Separate
him. That's right. That's the whole. I think that's what I meant by that. So I'm not sure if that's what they took offense to, because they keep pointing to what the court said in officer safety, but you don't need officer safety.
Yeah,
always in every situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Mr. Billfold in check here, simply because the arrogance it takes to think that you understand better about a case that not only are you an attorney, you practice law. This is specifically like a doctor that specializes on the heart. This is specifically what you specialize in.
And look, I have the best selling search and seizure book in America. Like I've sold over 100,000 books, on search and seizure. So I mean, I'm proud of what I know, but I'm not saying I'm perfect. But on this issue, I'm pretty damn good because this Penn v. Mims is a case that comes up all the time, and I'm just very familiar with it. All right, so back to the story at hand. So here's the deal: police officers are undertrained, especially in search and seizure. They are usually get adequate training in use of force. And so let me just kind of take you down the way I look at this and like the kind of like where we are, where we've been, where we're going. Back in the early 70s, police officers were getting killed left and right. Okay. There were a lot of shootouts. The number of deaths per year were around, almost 300, but, felonious assaults on police officers. And, now it's way lower because we have good tactics. Like we don't go up to cars anymore and just like, how you doing, fellas? With gun, like robbery suspects. Come on, fellas, get out of that car, keep your hands up. And then boom, we now call them back. We do tactical things and so forth. We have bulletproof vests. We have good, tools and so forth. Okay. The point is that law enforcement as a profession has spent billions and billions and billions of dollars trying to keep officers safe over the last 50 years. And they've done a pretty good job. It's not perfect.
Right.
But what have they done for search and seizure, right? Search and seizure has always been, no offense against redheads, but redheaded bastard stepchild, right?
Yeah.
They just don't give it the love that it deserves. And out of every 1,000 decisions that implicate the Fourth Amendment, because use of force obviously falls under the Fourth Amendment, a handful are use of force, legit use of force. The others are search and seizure issues. And so now, what has changed that dramatically and changed the paradigm, right? They call it a paradigm shift, which is based on a way of looking at things differently, is the body-worn camera. And to me, that's one of the blessings of the body-worn camera is because we need to have an honest conversation about what your officers are doing out there. They, in my classes, I talk about the most violated thing under the Fourth Amendment is curtilage. Now, curtilage is that area around your home. And it's also the door, the chalk in the door, and I'm not done talking to you type mentality. But it's just this mentality that we can do whatever we want on people's curtilage, as long as we're doing some kind of law enforcement purpose. But the videos are coming out and they're showing more and more officers not doing the right thing. Now they have good faith. We talked about that. Their heart is in the right place. They're just trying to solve crime, right?
Right.
But sometimes their lust for the bust is not giving them the right perspective. They need to care about not just the ends, but the means. In other words, it's not just, we don't care just about, hey, getting the guy in custody. That's important. But how'd you get there?
Yeah.
And so, so I think, I know agencies are becoming more and more interested and serious about this training issue. But I mean, I'm going to agencies that are like 20 people or so, which are small. And I'm like, what's your training budget? They're like $3,000 a year. You're not going to be able to do a lot with 20 people with $3,000 a year, but yet, okay. Can I also tell you I just have stories for everything because because the thing is like, yeah. I went to ICP. ICP is the International Search and Seizure, right. ICP, which is again,
International Association of Chief of Police. Yeah.
And I was there and I had my booth and I had, a nice little island booth and it's kind of nice and it's not huge, but it's decent. And across me is the drone people.
Yeah.
Axon has, of course, the waiting line, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking to these chiefs and I'm like, hey, I really like to come into your agency and train your guys for search and seizure. And I'm like, they're like, we got no money, can we do it for free? Can we host you? I speak Texan, by the way. You see that? Can we host you, fellas? I'm like, no, that's just, we want to train your whole agency. And he's like, yeah, but we just spent $250,000 on those drones. I'm like, the drones are getting all the love, right? And I'm like, look, you need drones. Drones are the future. And I really do mean that. They're as important as the police radio. but it's like, where is the love for the training? You know, you can have all these tech tools, you can have the nicest cars, you can have the nicest guns, you know, these 6-hour P320s are so nice that they shoot off themselves. They even, I mean,
yeah, right.
Yeah, actually, I like 320s. Actually, I have a Flux Legion, which I love, but so I'm just saying, like, you have all these nice toys, and it's not just me, by the way. It's not just search and seizure. There's a lot of important things that we need to train our officers. I mean, these officers are going out there with a lack of training. And the other thing is, you can pay now, or you can pay later. Okay, but Eric, it's not just pay now in lawsuits. It's also paying with officers who don't know what to do. You know, because I get these calls. I'm sure my phone is off, but you know, I'm sure when I get off, we'll have calls and like, man, you know, I had this call last night. I'm not sure I did the right thing and so forth. And it's like, we need to build confidence in a search and seizure space because because one of the things that officers, when they leave the academy, they just don't really know. Like they're still new. But even a 5-year officer with a big agency like Dallas and so forth, they still have a lot of confusions about what the courts want from them.
Mm-hmm.
When I teach my classes and I give them scenarios and I show them videos, I'll say, hey, did the officer do the right thing? And they're like, you know, and I pick these cases on purpose because I know they're getting it wrong. And I'm like, oh, give me a thumbs up. They did the right thing. And the cop's like, yeah, they did the right thing. I said, well, this officer's agency paid $2 million for that mistake right there. And they're like, what mistake? And I said, this is the mistake. And I said, oh, I see. You know, we're not supposed to do that, right? Well, I wasn't trained that way. It's like, you know, $2 million. It's like, you know, that and plus the morale issues, the lack of confidence. I call it the iceberg theory. Yeah, the tip of the iceberg is what we're paying out. Law enforcement pays $250,000 in plaintiff payouts every 7 hours.
Wow.
So, you know, that's just kind of how it breaks down, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of money. And it's like, so I talk to these chiefs, and chiefs, if you're listening out there, you know, you don't have to go through me. There's other great instructors out there. Just kidding. There's not, but we're the best in town. But but it's like, chief, your cops need more.
Yeah.
What they got into the academy and what they're getting through at FTO is not right. Is not enough. And also the FTOs, unfortunately, are also teaching the wrong thing. Can I just give you an example?
Yeah.
From your great state. So on October 27th, the Fifth Circuit came out with a case called Seizure versus San Benito. Is that
sounds familiar?
Yeah.
I like when you say it though, because it rhymes.
It does rhyme. And what happened there was an officer was talking to Seizure, and Seizure was engaged in like a neighbor dispute or something like that, and he was also engaged in disorderly conduct. Now Seizure was in his yard, and there was a fence that the cop, like there was a little pony wall fence with the gate, and the cop was talking to him over the gate, right? And he was he was engaged in disorderly conduct. So the cop had the PC, it was in presence, so we don't have that kind of issue. And the cop says, hey, look, you're going to take a ride, right? You're going to jail tonight. And Seizure turns around, he starts walking towards his front door, and the officer opens the gate, takes Seizure in custody, and places him under arrest. Do you see the problem there?
Yeah, well, he just violated the gate. He broke the threshold.
With no compliance. What we teach at Blue to Gold is called crew. In order to do a search or seizure, you need crew. You need consent, a recognized exception, or a warrant.
Right.
Here, they had no consent because he actually, when he turned around and started walking away, he's kind of
withdrawing his consent, consent that he would have had.
That's exactly right. Absolutely right. If he would have went in before, maybe, right? Actually, that'd be problematic too. But he had no recognized exception. He had no exigency, no emergency. He had no warrant. And now this comes back full circle to our conversation we had earlier about qualified immunity. The Fifth Circuit said, all right, this officer violated the Constitution. It is a violation, right? However, you're going to get qualified immunity. So that goes back to our original issue. This officer did the wrong thing. Not a big deal, but it was the wrong thing.
Right.
Okay. It's not
if he was a foot the other direction, it's an arrestable offense.
That's right. But yet Seizure did not get a penny because they gave so the next guy who does it gets paid. But Seizure doesn't get any money. I do think that's wrong. As a philosophy, there has to be a middle ground here between maybe you don't get the $1 million pay, something, right?
Right.
But you got to give this people something. At least, I mean, It doesn't help Seizure, but at least pay the lawyer. And look, I don't do this business, so it's not for me. I'm just saying, and don't overpay him. But you're going to do this legal work. You should. It's like if Seizure, if I'm a plaintiff's attorney and Seizure comes to me and says, "Hey, I got this case," and I look at it, I'm like, man, that cop violated the Constitution.
Right.
But I ain't taking it.
Yeah.
And Seizure says, why? Because I can't get paid.
Yeah.
It's not clearly established in the state of Texas. So beat it,
Yeah. You're actually making the system
worse.
100%. Yeah. 100%. I mean, think of Roe v. Wade. That kid's walking around full grown adult now.
Yeah. No, Roe v. Wade. That's so look, to answer your question.
Somebody had to be first.
Yeah. So, but we have, exactly. Right.
They're happy.
Yeah. They made it. But the point is that we do have a lack of training. But I look at it, I feel, and I mean this. I feel like I'm those use of force instructors that were out there in 1971 trying to scream from the top of their lungs, "Hey guys, we got to do something better. Like our cops are dying out there." Now, my business is not dying. My business is financial liability, right? So I like to say, I'm not here to help with your physical survival. I'm your legal survival, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm trying to keep you legally safe. And I'm also here to tell you, officers out there, that, this whole, like, if you mess up, you're going to lose your house. Nobody's losing their house. Okay. The only people who are losing their houses, they're called criminals.
Yeah.
They deserve to lose their house. Okay. If you're going to, brutally beat somebody, then you deserve to go to jail and lose your house. But departments are paying big money, and insurance pools and so forth.
Yeah. And the argument's going to be that if the cops started actually losing money themselves, that we would have less problems with cops violating rights.
Totally. In fact, and all these people that are like, on my channel and so forth, that like give us a hard time about the law. The one thing we can agree on, I know, is, hey, we need more training, because, and that doesn't mean that we're going to agree on what the law is. Clearly, we see that, right? But I see these officers violating people's rights, and I'm like, man, if that was me, I'd be pissed off too.
Yeah. Kingslayer dropped $5 in the chat and said, to clarify, the Steagald disagreement from earlier was banning, one of our co-hosts that comes on here said, that a murder arrest warrant alone grants exigent circumstances for third-party home entry.
I'm not sure that there's a case on that, right? I mean, what case? You must be referring to a specific case on that. However, because Steagald wasn't about a murderer, it's about a drug user. But I guess I can imagine that there might be a case out there. There might be a case out there that said that because he had this warrant, that maybe there's some agency there. Maybe you think that, Eric, that's where they're going with this?
Yeah.
And that would have to be a real a here and now thing, right? Hey, there's agency besides this warrant. Let's just say we have PC for him, because the warrants doesn't get you into third-party homes. But based on the type, I see my hands go over to your space. But sorry about that. But
you're fine.
But the agency of the situation, because we have Peyton. Peyton was also a murderer, right? Then they didn't have a warrant for him, but Peyton was a murderer, and the cops didn't even have agency to go into his own house to arrest him, because it happened 3 days ago.
Yeah. This is Mr. Bilfold. He actually opened my eyes to this before, is that of all these cops that do lose QI, even then, none of them pay out. None of them.
Wait, so say it again. So
the ones so he said QI prevents clearly establishing any case law. So it is a sick feedback loop that prevents justice for people whose rights have been violated. And then he goes on to say that 99.99% of cops who lose qualified immunity are covered by municipal identification policies.
All right, let me clarify a couple things. He's right, but it's not coming off correctly on the QI comment. So what he's talking about there is, first of all, qualified immunity does not prevent establishing clearly established case law. What he's talking about there is that the U.S. Supreme Court allows courts to skip over the first question of qualified immunity, which is, was there even a violation of the Constitution? Because if there wasn't, which is isn't that the most important question?
Right.
But, and this, okay, now we can agree on something right now. This would fix a lot of these problems. At least, force the courts to just address the damn issue, okay? And what he's talking about there is that most of these court cases coming out in QI, they skip over it. And they say, we're not even going to address whether or not it's even lawful. We're just going to say it's not clearly established. And I hate that. Yeah. I hate that. You're already there, court. You already have the facts before you. You already have a case in controversy. Deal with it. Tell us if this is wrong or right.
Yeah.
That's reason so it doesn't prevent it. It's just that it's a lazy way out by the courts.
Yeah. How do we fix that?
You fix it by the Supreme Court overturning their decision. I forget the case name. I want to say Hendricks, but there's a case that allows the Supreme Court says that you don't have to address both questions. Is it a violation? If it was it clearly established? Right? You got to fix that case. You got to tell the Supreme Court, you know what, we messed up. You have to answer both questions.
Sounds like you got some work to do, brother.
That's why I have my my bar license for the Supreme Court.
Hell yeah, I like
that. May it please the court. That's what you got to say, by the way.
Oh, is that's the vernacular?
That's the vernacular. As you start your, you start your argument.
Yeah, I like that. Trying to.
But that was a good argument. Whoever brought, I forgot the name.
Yeah, Mr. Billfold. Yeah,
Billfold. That's an excellent issue. That's drives me crazy.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of a. I've heard of cops losing QI, and I'm like, I know it happens, and then you don't follow through with that. You just think, oh, they lost qualified immunity, so they got fucked, and that's rightfully so. Well, it turns out even when they lose it, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people know. If I didn't know it, I mean, I'm not saying I'm the most astute person out there for knowledge.
Let's go up there. It says cops don't get identification. Go up a little bit. What's this one's? Because there was another identification issue. There it is right there. What does that say? Cops don't pay identification, insurance pay at all. That is true. And that's just, but I will tell you that has to be that way. It has to be that way. You cannot have law enforcement in 2025 without identification. Identification is basically insurance, right? Identification is saying, hey, if you get sued, we will pay the bills. It has to be the way. No cop. If we lost if you don't lose identification, agencies provide it. But if agencies did not provide identification, I would be the first one telling every cop to walk off that job, because cops make mistakes. Okay, I've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. We all make mistakes. Now, we may not have been called on it in a sense, but what identification requires, though, is these policies and these like the laws and so forth. They require good faith.
Yeah.
Meaning if the officer acted in malice, they don't have identification, but they have to have identification because the Constitution is too damn complicated. I mean, I'm making a business over here, doing pretty well for myself over people's confusions.
Yeah.
And that's not right. I shouldn't really have a business. I have the largest search and seizure company in the nation because cops don't understand the Fourth Amendment.
Okay. So let me get into this part, because this is, and Freeman, or Friends and Codes, I'll read your thing here in a second.
No way.
What I know.
Sorry.
One of the things that I try to convey is that just because you know the Constitution, practical application in real life scenarios it's not clear all the time. No. It's not, like we watched the video of the guy putting his foot in the doorway, and I could look at 20 people and 18 of us are going to be like, it's clearly a violation. Mm-hmm. Like, this was egregious.
Yep.
But there's still going to be 2 people. No, that's not. Now you expect cops to get that right every single time. And I'm telling you, I don't know how to explain it, but there's a difference in being able to read something and think that you know how to apply that to any scenario that happens. And it's just not true.
And Eric, can I tell you one other problem that we have here? Judges. In other words, you're going to say, not only are you really expected to know every single case out there that's binding on you, and you're supposed to get this right. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I got so many damn questions. I don't know if I'm right about everything. I mean, I actually changed my tune on something the other day that I was teaching. I was like, actually, somebody convinced me that I probably wasn't right on it. And we don't have a case on it, right?
Yeah.
And but here's the other thing. It's like, not only are we right, but but you have to have, what's funny is like, even lawyers don't have to be right, but cops do.
Right.
Lawyers don't have that standard. When I got my bar license, it says I just have to have the professional judgment, but I don't have to know all the cases. Okay. I should, but if I litigate something for a client, I don't have to know, but you do.
And you also have time to prepare.
I don't. I work in the ivory tower. But do you know that you have to be 100%? You are absolutely legally obligated under the Constitution to know every binding, not persuasive, but every binding case from the U.S. Supreme Court, 650 of them that affect your job, all of them from the Fifth Circuit, thousands that affect your job, and all of them from the Court of Criminal Appeals, thousands that affect your job. I bet you probably don't know 200 of them.
Even the ones I could tell you I know, I still only know them.
Correct.
Partly.
Anecdotally.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So for the people out there, okay, and hopefully I'm the microphone, for the people out there that say cops should get their own insurance, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. If you go get a job at the HVAC place and you're driving their company truck, make sure that you get your own insurance on that too. That's like walking into the, hey, here's the keys to the company car. Where's your insurance for the? What do you mean? Why do I have to provide insurance? I'm the one working for you.
Yeah.
I understand we want to hold cops accountable, but you don't do it by telling them they have to take a job and then they also have to provide their own insurance. No job is like that.
Yeah.
Malpractice. If you're a doctor and have malpractice insurance, it's because you work on your own. We don't have private police here.
Right. Nor should we.
Well, I don't know about that. Arizona has the posse.
The posse. Yeah. I had Mark Lamb on and made him talk about, I'm like, bro, you got fucking posses.
I like the posses. I think that's
crazy.
I think we disagree there. I think we should have some more posses. I'm actually being kind of serious. I think that there is value in having restoring some of the policing responsibility back to the public.
With you.
Yeah.
But they need some training.
They need some training. And also let's keep them with the big stuff. They're probably not going to go to the homes investigating domestic violence. But I do wouldn't mind a little bit of roving patrols at night.
Right. So Mr. Billfold said, all QI does is prevent it's going to be hard for us to separate from QI now that you open that doorway. But I avoid it like the plague because I'm not qualified to, no pun intended, qualified to argue anything on it. But he said, all qualified immunity does is prevent new case law that clearly establish our rights. It does not save cops or government actors from financial liability. Anything to that?
No. I think we kind of covered it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're beating a dead horse because we're of the agreement qualified immunity is busted and it needs to be fixed, especially on the clearly established part of the cases. So we're with y'all. Like we agree. So no need to beat a dead horse on that one. But I want to get back to training, fixing the problems we're seeing with police on search and seizure. And you've already kind of alluded to it's a problem.
It is a problem.
And now we're addressing that issue. Money being one. So getting the proper training.
Yep.
Maybe not spending, especially departments that don't have a lot of money, not spending so much on going to the range 4 or 5 times a year.
Yep.
And dropping all that. Maybe you only go 3 times and you get a proper search and seizure class, because every single day that you go out, you're seizing something, more than likely.
Yep.
Just one traffic stop, there's a seizure.
Yep.
So you need to know what the hell you're doing.
You have to.
And in that, it's not just, this is the part where we're probably coming off as cop-splaining. Mm-hmm. It isn't just to cover your ass legally. Yes, that's a big part of it. I don't want to get myself legally hemmed up. I don't want to violate your rights.
Yeah.
That's the other part that we're not saying, I think, that we need to kind of emphasize. I don't want to mess up your rights. I don't want to step on them. So that's the other part that I feel like we're not saying, but we should be saying.
Well, I think I said it in a roundabout way when I said that I teach not only to prevent lawsuits, but also to give confidence. Because cops, look, they're again, we have plenty of people that can, I'm sure, understand that there are some bad actors out there, just like there are bad doctors, mechanics, and so forth. But the point is that cops, the 99% of them, right? They want to do the right thing. They don't, just like you said, they want to know the law. They want to have that confidence. In fact, if they have confidence, you'll see them. That'll fix the ego issue too a little bit, because sometimes ego is like their fallback position. It's like, I told you this. I saw a video on your channel about, a guy, a cop who's trying to detain somebody when they even talked to the complainant, and
they just went straight to the auditor.
Went straight to the auditor, and it's like, And you can see it's an ego issue. And it's like, he doesn't like being told no. And he doesn't like, people knowing the law probably better than him. But in that case, the guy probably did know the law better than him. But but the cops need to know the law the best. And they need to be like, okay, I like to say, if you've been legally beat, you have to tactically retreat. Okay. Cops need to recognize when they've been legally beat, because the reality is that we do have a lot of laws in our favor. Okay. And, we have exigency, we have, use of force, and, we have these laws that can give us the tools that we need to keep our community safe. But there are also a lot of things that the suspect has in their favor. They can keep the police out of their home unless they have crew, consent, written exception, or warrant. They don't have to waive Miranda, and so forth. They don't have to consent to search. They don't have to talk to cops.
Yeah.
So, and cops need to recognize that, yeah, okay, I've been legally beat here. This guy, the law is more in his favor than mine. I'm gonna have to do something else to solve this issue.
Yes, agreed. Mike Cucumber in the super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. And just as a reminder to everybody that does support the channel, one, make sure you're going over to Blue to Gold. Like, follow, subscribe to all their stuff. Two, all these donations and stuff that you guys make with the memberships and the super chats and whatnot, it's not going in my pocket. It's going directly back into the channel. So we appreciate that. It gives us things like when we do share videos and you don't want to watch ads, like we put that into the premium YouTube membership. They tore me apart one day because we were watching body cam review videos and we had to wait for the commercials. And they were upset about the commercials.
I would be upset too.
So somebody dropped like $50. They're like, get YouTube Premium. I was like, all right, I got it. So that's funny. But yeah, so we appreciate that, guys. But reading Mike's thing over here said cops can have qualified immunity if citizens can have QI as well. That doesn't even make sense, bro. I can't sue a citizen, can I? On duty?
You can.
How does that? I've never heard of that. Oh my God! Imagine being that cop.
Well, okay, so there's a couple rules here. The main one is that you're not. I forget the doctrine name, but you're not. I think it's called the firefighter doctrine or something like that. It's not that, but you're not allowed to sue a person if you go. Let's say they catch their house on fire, and and you go into their house and you get hurt. And you can prove that they actually did it on purpose, right? So your injury and you got hurt. You got hurt. You should have never got hurt, right? They should never put. You can't sue them over that. There's a doctrine for that. But I do know a lot of officers who've been on duty and been hit on by a vehicle, right? Not necessarily in person, but their car gets hit and they sue the insurance of that person and they get paid.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of common.
I guess I've never heard of a cop.
But that's just, but you're not suing them you assume as a private party.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Shout out to Internal Service Error 503. I know who you are. It's Harrison. He changed his name, or he got a new name, but he's delivering 10 gifted memberships. And I believe he did 10 earlier. So thank you very much, brother.
Awesome.
They do go to random people. I also want to give a shout out to Rogue Audit. I think that was the name. Rogue Nation Audits is in the house. I see Freeman saying hello to you. And I know that if Freeman is getting all hyped up, that he really likes you. So I should really like you too. If citizens conspire with government to violate rights, they can be included. That is true. 1983.
In fact, that's actually why that law was passed, was to basically go after the KKK.
Really?
Yeah. So it was passed after the Civil War. And what was happening was vigilante justice, right? So, and mobs and so forth. So the KKK was conspiring with local officials, local cops, sheriff's departments, and going and violating African-American rights. So they passed that law to actually have a mechanism for citizens to sue the KKK when they are acting under color of law. Now that's the piece that needs to be established. Is normally if the KKK is operating by themselves, they're not operating the color of law. But when they team up and conspire along with local police officers to do it, and they are along for the ride, or vice versa,
right?
It's a 1983 claim.
Oh, interesting.
It's a civil rights issue.
Is there any modern cases that you can think of where that's a thing?
Hold on. About conspiring. Actually, okay, this is a small one, but it was involving a tow truck driver where the tow truck driver, and I don't really remember the facts. I I remember because it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like they went after the tow truck driver and the cops for illegally seizing their vehicle.
Okay.
And the court upheld it. They upheld that the tow truck driver and the cops conspired, I guess.
It was getting a cutback or something financially, probably?
No, just something about just unlawfully seizing the vehicle.
Oh.
Something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, but it's rare. It's rare. Because most of the time we don't have, well, look, the posses.
Yeah.
Actually, there it is right there.
Yeah, the posses.
The posses would and could be sued under 1983 because even though they're private actors not getting paid, I don't think they get paid. They are working on behalf of the sheriff's department, and they could be absolutely sued under 1983.
Ah, okay. This is actually, you guys are putting out some interesting shit today. I like this because I didn't know this either. Police raided Afro man's home and found nothing. You remember that singer? No. He sang "Because I Got High."
Really?
Because I got high.
And they raided
because I got high. Yeah.
And that's they raided his house because of that?
No. But they raided his house for some unknown thing. And I do remember that they didn't find jack shit.
Yeah.
And they used the raid footage to sue him for alleged damages to their reputation. Man, you can sue about anything, can't you?
Yeah, probably. I mean, but look, it's if the shoe's under their foot, you'd probably want to sue too.
Yeah. Somebody said, Pitbulls and Bonfire said, Eric, I'm curious about the video you put out. The driver wanted the cop's name so he could file a complaint about him speeding. My question, how would that go down if a civilian did file a complaint?
So the flavor I get here is that maybe the issue is how do you get the cop's name? Is that maybe the issue here?
I'm not sure. I think she may be kind of talking about where the cop put the ticket in the window, the example I gave you earlier, and dropped the warning, and assume it wasn't about a name. She said, I'm curious about the video you put out. Driver wanted the cop's name so he could file a complaint about him speeding.
Yeah.
No, I know what video she's talking about now. So an off-duty cop had a unmarked car, or it was a marked police car, but fly by him. I was like, what the fuck?
Was it in Florida?
No. This was in Colorado, I believe. It was some cold state.
Okay.
And guy flies by him, and the off-duty cop's like, this motherfucker. And then he goes and pulls someone over for speeding.
Okay, I think I got it. So the off-duty cop sees a marked unit speeding.
Yep, with no lights, no sirens.
And then that marked unit pulls somebody else over.
For speeding.
Okay.
And so now the cop's like, you hypocrite motherfucker. So he gets his camera out. He's down the road on the other side, and he's filming. So now the cop comes up and makes contact after he completes his traffic stop and wants this driver's ID and all this stuff.
Of the person who's filming.
Of the person who's filming.
Who happens to be an off-duty
cop.
Who
happens to be an off-duty cop.
See, we're protecting. We're calling.
Yes.
We're enforcing our own, policing our own.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Well, first of all, you don't. You that person filming should not hand over anything. And with those facts, right?
Right. And him being a cop, he knows better than the average bear.
Why? Look, I haven't seen this video, but what a dummy. The guy, the cop on duty going over and trying to engage this guy. Like he's just engaged in the First Amendment. He's a First Amendment auditor. It's like, why would you even engage this guy? So dumb. Yeah,
she said, yep, that video. Yeah. So he wanted the guy's name and badge number. And then he was reluctant at first, but then, he asked for a supervisor. Supervisor comes out and basically lays down the law and tells him what the deal is, like a good supervisor should. So, I mean, all the checks and balances worked out in that.
Yeah.
And now I believe that cop is suing him as he should. He violated his rights.
If he felt detained, which he probably did.
Oh, he was absolutely. He told him, you can't go. He's like,
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All I can say is I wish it happened to me.
Yeah. Okay. So since we tapped onto that subject, clearly establishing detention. That is another problem that officers have, where you can see it when they're not quite sure. They'll be asked, am I being detained? Am I free to go?
Yes.
And they're like, I'm trying to get your, like, they don't answer the question.
I know. Because that's part of this whole thing. First of all, it's this part of the theme. They're not answering the question because they don't know.
Yeah. They're unconfident.
They're not confident. And they need to answer it yes or no. Okay. And they need to have confidence. If a person is detained, they say, yes, you are being detained.
So can you clearly say for the camera, if they ask, you have to tell them?
You should tell them.
Yes.
I mean, have to, but yeah, you need to, because you come off, when the cops are not, or when the cops are not even saying if a person's detained or not, that looks, it's like you lack credibility there.
Right.
First of all, a detention is like the most ubiquitous, common, elementary thing that you know. I mean, that's like a first day of the academy thing, right? So why aren't you answering the question? Are you detained or not? Is this person free to leave?
Yeah.
And they're not going to be free to leave if you have reasonable suspicion criminal activity is afoot.
Yep.
Or a feat. That's a lot more, even more suspicion.
Red tag 7915, I believe he's on your channel, or she said, where do you send questions for this? Just in the comments, guys.
Yeah, we can see them.
Yeah, we see them as they're coming up. We grab them as we can. Obviously, we don't want to interrupt free flowing thoughts. So this is part of the fun part about doing a live stream interview style podcast is we're still getting the material that we want to talk about, which is search and seizure with officers and where they're screwing up in the Constitution and how we're trying to make that better. But at the same time, we're going down rabbit holes with y'all with your questions. So we do appreciate it. Throw those in there. Pitbulls and Bonfire said internal. I think it is appropriate. If a cop doesn't answer the question, if I'm detained, then I'm not detained.
I agree.
100%.
Walk away.
Yep. And then hope to God they grab you.
and hope to God that they don't have reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
Because if they do have reasonable suspicion, then I think you're going to lose that case. Because you're not going to get qualified immunity. You're not going to find a case out there that says if you do not tell people they're detained, then that's not detention. It's going to be a show of authority.
Right. And it's going to be based on reasonableness.
Correct. And if you have a show of authority and a reasonable person would not feel free to leave, but they also had reasonable suspicion. So it's just one of these things, right? Talk about curtilage. I can talk about curtilage.
Well, that says cartilage, and that's what's in your ears and your nose.
Actually, what's funny is I got a funny story about that.
Spoken with you.
No, it's actually somewhat common. So I was teaching in Arkansas. And I was teaching at the academy, and I normally don't teach at academies. I teach in service.
Did you have the most teeth in that?
I probably did.
I'm just messing with you, Arkansas. Relax.
And I could, but this is actually it's going along with this joke, right? This Southern joke. So I said to these new guys, these young men and women, I said, hey, I'm gonna talk about curtilage. And I said, who even knows what the word even means? And this young man raised his hand and said, sir, it's that stuff in your nose.
I like it. I like it. That gets everybody's juices flowing for learning. I like a good laugh when we're talking about that stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of another joke I got to tell you in a second. But curtilage is the area protected around your home. It's highly protected and it's highly confused. And that's also why we need, qualified immunity. And, just because courts have not given us a lot of cases on curtilage, they've given a lot. I mean, some. But we are making some judgment calls here.
Okay. And this is from your page. Red tag 7915 said, question, duplex. Cops go to the backyard for loud music investigation. Person is intoxicated, lowers music. Person tells them to leave. Cops tell him to go back inside. He says, no, I'm on my backyard.
Yeah, I think okay, so there's two things. Number one is if he already committed the violation, which is the loud music, right? And the cops are lawfully present in the backyard, which they may be, to help turn the music down, they can issue him a ticket, right? They can take enforcement actions. They're lawfully present. Now, they arrested him for public intoxication. That depends on state law. Most state laws do not allow people to be arrested for public intox on curtilage. And that's the rule. I believe it's also in Texas. It's not a crime to be on your porch drunk. In fact, that's where you're supposed to be, not in not on the street.
Right.
So you got to, but other states have held that if you can see them from the public view, then it's public intox. I don't like those laws because I think it's kind of wrong. I think it's bad discretion.
Yeah.
I think get them for something else, right? They're tumultuous conduct, they're disorderly conduct. If you want to do something like that, if that's applicable, shooting their gun in the air. But to be drunk on your own curtilage is straight up wrong.
Right. And he said, is it even lawful for them to go to the backyard for loud music investigation if the front door wasn't answered? And is it legal for them to arrest him in the backyard standing on his steps?
Yeah. So the answer is probably. So here's what I teach. So the first thing is that when the officers arrive on scene, we have to establish is the ongoing violation, is the violation ongoing? Okay. If it's not ongoing and they did turn down the music, then we don't really have any exigency. We can do a knock and talk. But presuming that, I think from the facts here, that the music is still blasting. So the next thing is, all right, we have an ongoing nuisance. Now, we're going to have some debate about whether or not that is enough of an exigency to actually go into the backyard, right? However, I do believe that most courts are going to uphold it with the right facts because it is ongoing. There is some urgency there to resolve this.
Yeah.
If you're going to say, well, they're blasting their music, they got the band, the live band in the backyard at 2:00 in the morning. You've had 10 freaking phone calls from neighbors saying, please, I got to work in the morning. This is bullshit. And you're like, nah, I got to get a warrant. That's not the right answer. Okay. Judges also realize that, they'll just say it's an ongoing kind of exigency nuisance. So we go into the backyard. Hey, you guys, you got to shut it down. Right. And so the next thing is, look, if they're lawfully present, then we take care of business. And that means that you can get the ticket. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'll take enforcement action. Or if it's an arrestable offense, you could get arrested. Some states are not going to allow you to get arrested for a noise complaint. But, you could take the guy with you. Hopefully he's going to be, he might be drunk, but hopefully he'll be cooperative and try to be like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. And, talk his way out of a ticket and, and be like, oh, it won't happen again. I got excited and so forth. I got a new job. I'm celebrating, whatever. Right. But, so I think the argument's going to be if he turns down the music and he wants to go into his house. So first of all, if he makes it into his house, leave him alone.
Right.
But if you can like detain him temporarily, like, look, you've already made the violation. I am lawfully present. You are going to get a ticket, and just escort him out to the front. And if you want to do that, and give him his ticket and then kick him loose.
Yeah. We don't have any mods on right now, guys, because this was a bonus episode.
What's a mod?
Moderators.
Oh,
so,
moderators.
Yeah. So they're asking for, I'm doing everything myself. So the person that asked, why are we intentionally ignoring some question? I'm not. I'm trying to engage in a conversation and we're trying to monitor the chat at the same time. It's not just YouTube chat that you're seeing. We also have Facebook, LinkedIn, his YouTube. So all of these chats are just flying through. We can't possibly keep up with all of them.
Now, personally, I think you should have ignored his.
Yeah. We are specifically
just to prove a point.
Yeah. So if you want to throw that question up there again, like Mr. Billfold gets it. I know you guys were getting on him earlier, but he throws a question up. If we didn't get to it, he'll throw it up again because he understands that this thing is scrolling past, and I can't possibly with no mods on to help me tonight, guys. Or on this one, it's just not possible. But yes, the Discord link is on the chat right now. You should be able to see that. I promise you, I don't ignore any question. Mr. Billfold just said Eric does not ignore anyone.
No. So see, you can. What Mike said, the sanctity of the home shall not be infringed upon for minor or trivial issues. That's not in the Fourth Amendment necessarily, but that's the whole problem, isn't it?
But it could be.
But, I'm just saying, like, what is that? That's not what the Fourth Amendment says. It doesn't say that we shall not infringe the home for trivial issues. But what's trivial to you? I don't know. I think if I was living next to a gang party, and they were blasting their music, and I was trying to get some sleep at 2:00 in the morning, it wouldn't be trivial to me.
Yeah. To make sure you're good, said officers 99% of the time feel that they have to get them for something, anything. The us versus them mentality trained into officers has ruined officer discretion. And I think
that's absolutely true.
You hit the nail on the fucking head.
That is absolutely true. We got to, and also look, we talked about, you mentioned about, ex-military guys, joining the force, and there's a lot of value in that.
Yep.
But there also can be,
there's some major
framework issues. It's
egotistical roots and
because they weren't trained. Like when you go to boot camp, that is the opposite of what of constitutional policing. You know what I mean? Like you're not thinking about the Fourth Amendment when you're being trained as a soldier. Right. So the only thing I would say is that sometimes that mentality comes from that military mindset, because that's where you should have that mindset. Like, we're going to conquer. Yeah, nobody's going to tell me no, whatever. But I have seen officers struggle with training when they're tenured in military mindset.
Yes. And as a military cop, I see it especially. You'll get this mentality from, and I'm going to call out my security forces members in the Air Force. That's military police. They think because they're military cops in the Air Force that they can just transfer Just lateral transfer into a cop job in the streets. Where's the camera? Look at me, security forces guys, and every other MP for every other branch. You are not a municipal cop. You are not a sheriff, a deputy. You're not any of that. You're not ready. You need to go through an academy, and you need to go through search and seizure courses. You need to go through all of that stuff. No abbreviated, no nothing. You need to go through a full fucking academy. Sorry. Sorry.
Of course. No, it's absolutely true. Somebody did ask a good follow-up question. Somebody says, does it really matter if it's a gang party or a loud party? I think that's actually a very good question. I think the answer is no. It does help, that you may have other,
contributing factors.
Maybe but no, I was adding, embellishment to my response just to make it more interesting. In other words, to be a victim of some of these dirtbags that don't care about the fact that they live in a society with other people that have a life too.
Yeah. Beckham said, in regards to presenting documents at the window instead of handing them through the window, what are your stance? My stance is, as long as I can get the information, I don't give a shit. But I'll keep going. If an officer breaks into the car to get the documents during the stop, is that okay? Let me go. I'll go first because I know you know this inside and out, and I want to see if I'm wrong. This is me putting myself on the line, but my credibility may get damaged here a little bit. But the way that I read the law, at least in the state of Texas, is that identification needs to be presented as far as I need to be able to get the information. It does not say that I get to physically inspect a license. I think it says visually.
You think it says that?
I think it says visually inspect a license.
Well, okay. Maybe. Okay.
But anyway, the point being, I think there's no specification that I have to physically be able to be in control of it. Regardless, I don't need to be, as long as I can read it. So if they push it up against the glass, which has happened to me before, I need to figure out, is the juice worth the squeeze on that?
Okay, I think you're saying two different things though, right?
Okay.
You're saying that they don't need to do it, but then you're saying juice worth the squeeze. The juice worth the squeeze issue only comes in if you can make it happen, but it's not worth it.
Because I know in some states like Arizona, because I've talked to Fridays with Frank Slope, in theirs, for their state law, it says physical. Like you physically have to inspect it.
Hand it over.
Yes, hand it over to ensure that it's a legit license.
Yeah. So look, here's my answer. I don't know. I've never researched this before. I have watched videos from Florida where allegedly, according to the commentary, Florida does not require them to actually hand it over, that they can slap it on the window.
Right.
And so I don't know what the law, you know the law better in Texas than I do. That's for damn sure. I believe in Nevada, you have to hand it over and be able to, I think that's what the law means and so forth. But I will, so I think it matters what your law says, but even, I will tell you, I wholeheartedly agree that even if your law is crystal clear, you shall, under penalty of death, hand over that license physically to that officer. I believe you should not arrest somebody and break windows and pull people out through windows and all this stuff, because but yet you could have verified everything.
Yes.
The MDT comes back with their picture. Everything comes back. They put the slit down so you can put in their ticket to like a mailbox. Just go ahead and
that's one out of 5,000 stops that are ever going to go that way.
Yeah.
And just get it over with.
It's like the same thing with the car, getting them out of the car issue.
Yeah.
It's like going back to the Sandra Bland Act. I mean, yeah, you do have the authority to order people out, but why? I mean, what, the guy says, no, I'm not coming out. And all you want to do is just, puff your chest, that I have this authority,
Yeah.
Let it go, disengage. Just like, actually get out of here.
Something that I try to make cops understand is you're contacting somebody who's now having the worst time of their life or their day.
Absolutely.
Even if it was speeding, then they were heading to go get this, $10,000 work bonus, whatever it was. They're having a great day. The moment you pull them over, it's now the worst day.
Yep. And
in doing that, some people's defense mechanism is just a level of control in a moment of no control.
Yep.
And you have to recognize that. And if their moment of needing some sort of control triggers your also need and ego to have the control, we're going to have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
And you need to recognize that.
Yeah. Go to First Best right up there.
Gigi?
So he brings up a good point. He says, I see why they would want to touch it. Now, I work the bar, fake IDs. Yes, there's one key difference between what we're saying and what you would do in that case. If I go to a bar and they ask me, first of all, if they ask me for my ID and they really meant it, just not going through the motions because they have to, I'll be complimented, but I don't look that young. But the key difference is that you don't have an MDT. You don't have NCIC. You don't have DMV records. The police have those, Now, if you have a cop who the MDT is down, and he's looking at this ID and it's like, man, I don't know, man, this thing might be illegitimate. And I don't want to, or I can't confirm this guy's information because my MDT is down and dispatch or whatever. We have a problem. I'm sorry. I'm going to get that license.
Yeah. Made in America said ego is the key word. It's going to be a reoccurring theme on my show. Guys, the last live we did was about ego. We actually put on a course. What we're doing now is we're taking that episode, we're going to cut it, repackage it, and then it's going to be a free guide. The ego course, the whole ego course is going to be on there. If you find your department or somebody else's department that you think has an ego issue, just send them the link.
Yep.
Doesn't cost them anything. It is literally a recruit class that that department puts on, and I don't know of any other one in the nation currently that's doing it. And that class literally got stemmed because of the podcast. The videos we were showing, it's constant.
Yeah.
Again, it's cops not wanting to face issues that we have.
Yeah, totally.
And
be mature about it.
Be mature. Yeah. There's obviously a bigger issue going on out there. If we can see video after video after video on the social media.
I think that cops should be more like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. They should be more like, Clint Eastwood, not with the whole hand cannon in your face, but just calm the F down, Stop taking yourself so seriously, especially with these minor events like the car stops and the pedestrian violations. And it's just like these cops are taking themselves way too seriously.
Yes. Yep. I agree. And, and to like Mr. Billfold's point, this is, listen, guys, I can hold cops accountable way more than I can ever say anything about citizens. Okay. I don't have that right. I can't, if you're within your rights, it's not for me to tell you what to do. But to your point, just hand it over. It's a state property after all. There's no reason to give police further reason to fuck with you. I agree with that sentiment.
100%.
But if you choose to make a point or make a stand, holy shit, we live in a beautiful country that you have that right with hopefully no fear of retaliation from your government.
Yeah. Oh, look, if you want to, I think that all the time, if you want to roll around and you want to play these games with cops and that's the lifestyle you want to live, just know that cops are not going to give you a lot of discretionary, they're not going to give you a lot of breaks. They don't have to give you any breaks. I do believe strongly that, that cops should get breaks when it's, because we're trying to change behavior, right?
Yeah.
And I don't need to give a ticket to everybody to change their behavior. But when I got a guy, in my face, mother effing me, telling me that your laws are illegitimate, whatever. And he's like, well, to me, you're just telling me it's not, I don't care about your speech. But you're telling me that you don't want to change your behavior.
Yeah. Mike Cucumber, thanks for the super chat. He said to share a link or air raid to share a link due to fear of retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
And what was I was just getting ready to show one of these. I missed it. Okay. So there's another topic that I wanted to bring up. Did we hit everything on getting police trained where they're screwing up? Did we go down that rabbit as far as you wanted to on that?
Probably. I think we've had some really good conversation here. Yeah, maybe. I just wish they would take it more seriously. Seriously is not there. I just wish they would put more money towards it. And I'm not trying to be selfish here, but it's just like, we just have some agencies, just they don't have any money, but they have, $120,000 kitted out Tahoe, and and it's like, I'm sorry, like, you got to pick, you got to pick your poison too. We need training.
Afraid, that's what he meant to say, not air raid or a raid, whatever. I read.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sometimes I don't put words.
You get some funny people on here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some good personalities.
The Don Dunpeel said that there is not enough bandwidth in the world to send videos to the NYPD, who, in my opinion, is one of the biggest ego departments in the country. No. Well, when you keep calling them New York's finest,
Yeah, that's not the biggest ego in the country, though.
No?
No.
Oh.
Not even close. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I think NYPD to me is tame compared to some of these egos out there.
Yeah. I've run across them. You get them out there, and I'm like, what is it about your agency that?
Yeah, I think in the South you probably have, ego, but you just have this like. It's just this mentality of like this is the way this is Johnny Law. This is the way we do business around here.
Yeah.
And it's like you better listen to me, and there's some probably there's it's
They're making fun of me now. Listen, I'm like Ron Burgundy up here. If it's on the prompter, I'm going to read it how it is on the prompter.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny. Yeah, you're like Ron.
I like how Eric reads super chats exactly as they are written. Yeah. I am.
Oh, actually, okay. So somebody does bring up GSP. Okay, he called it out. Georgia State Patrol is absolutely. I mean, they are very prideful. I mean,
I was thinking of a case law. I was like, "What's a GSP? What are we talking about?" Oh, yeah. Georgia State Police. My bad. Yeah. Well, they will chase anything that moves.
Yeah, they have a reputation for that, man. And I kind of respect it.
Yeah,
because
I mean, the citizens obviously back it up because they're still doing it.
Yeah, and you do like they will say in Georgia that if you are, if you're a bad guy and you're like, I'm thinking about running, and you're like, but you look at the car first, and if it's a Georgia State Patrol, you don't run.
Yeah.
Because they will F you up, man.
Don Dunpeel said, I was away from the computer for a second, but he said, had you addressed my question about the department's hiring non-U.S. citizens as officers to uphold a constitution they have no allegiance to? I think you pretty much self-explained that. Mm-hmm. There's no need, like, I'm against it. I don't think that should be a thing at all.
Without question.
Yeah. Harrison, do you know much about all of the police my dogs are fighting out there. All the police corruption stuff going on in Kentucky? There's a lot. That's pretty big over there.
I did hear something about this.
He had asked and I lost the question. I can't really find it. So yeah, Harrison, if you want to post your Kentucky question again, let me know. 85% of citizens are bootlickers. Of course they support GSP. Well, I mean, technically power's in the people. And if they support their law enforcement doing certain law enforcement acts,
I mean, look, I don't mind being heavy handed on the people running. I mean, just, that's like, pit them. You know what I mean? They're causing a danger to all these people around them. I mean, it's but be easy on the stuff that doesn't really, it's the victimless crime stuff, right? But running from police is not victimless. People die all the time from people that are run from police.
Yeah. I think I already know where we're going to be on this one, but Kingslayer said if someone consents to an officer to be in their home and the officer wants to disarm the person for safety reasons, nope. If the person says, if you want to disarm me, you need to leave. And they said that's part one. Okay. So I'm assuming he's typing. I'm already on the side of the homeowner. So I don't know where you're going with it, but I'm already on the side of the homeowner. If this is all consensual and the homeowner wants to remain armed, that's their fucking prerogative.
Yeah, no, I think you need to handle that. You need to handle that issue with consent as well.
Yes.
They've already given consent to search the home. Why wouldn't they want to give consent to put the gun away?
Yeah.
And if they're not going to put the gun away, then
not even search, just to be in the home. I mean, you are technically doing a search.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glad you corrected me. It's just in the home.
Just to be in the home. Yeah.
No, I ain't, absolutely. I mean, I carry I don't carry 24/7. I carry 24/7 when I'm at home, right? In my home state of Idaho now. But I always carry.
Yeah.
Always.
I think Idaho was the state that California chief was commuting from. Did you hear about that?
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
There was people were all butthurt about that. Saying that shouldn't be allowed. And I'm like, listen, a chief's position, he's doing all his job from the phone anyway.
But I don't like it though. Okay. I think it should be part of the contract. Hey, look, if you're going to be a chief of our town, you do have to live within. I'm not saying to live in our town, but you have to be able to respond.
Yes. I don't disagree with that. But if you didn't have that in the contract, that wasn't in writing, like.
Well, I know San Francisco cops that do that.
Yeah. There's fire jumpers or whatever they call them. Yeah. They're the ones they usually live here in Texas and Arizona and all that stuff. And then they fly out to California and do their shit.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, if, the San Francisco cops are probably a good example because they're making they're one of the highest paid in the nation. And, it's not a place I would want to work because I don't, the politics there is really bad, but they go to Nevada or they go to Idaho or, you can't blame them.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what Harrison was talking about earlier. He said, Kentucky troopers lying under oath. So this has all been, this isn't just, alleged. This is happening. Because he lives in Kentucky, so he shares Kentucky stuff with us all the time, and he's definitely one of our biggest contributors. He's probably the biggest contributor.
Okay.
And he said keeping their jobs, getting promotions, lying to get warrants. Like,
okay.
I guess he's basically trying to see what you may know about it.
I know nothing about that.
Nothing about that
Nothing.
one. Something interesting. Mike Cucumber.
Yeah.
I appreciate Eric listening to dissenting opinions for 2+ hours.
Totally. I mean, I'm actually going to tell you right now, Eric, I'm never coming on this show again because I thought we were going to have a bunch of love on here. Hey, man, Anthony, you're on here. I support you. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Yeah.
All I've been hearing is bashing on Pennsylvania versus Mims for an hour straight, okay? I'm never going to bring up that case again.
No, guys, this is, I mean, honestly, any real lawyer, it's what they live for. They want you to have an opinion that's not theirs.
Yeah, no, we want good debate. We want, and I'm also, don't forget, I'm not closed-minded. I'm not perfect on this stuff. So I'm looking for feedback too.
Yep. 2 cops, 1 donut. The DOJ has charged them, a few of them now. That's good. Good.
Yeah.
The system's working.
Yep. You got to have it working. Yep.
Yeah. Gigi said, gotta go, chat. Thank you for joining us, Gigi. Appreciate it. I saw another comment up here. Where did it go? I appreciate you listening. Then you'll know more about the subject than the cops and lawyers, present company included. Shut up, Mr. Billfold. You got it wrong. Most people are butthurt because he slept in the station, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. They got mad because he was sleeping in the station, which, bro, you were a cop too. Like, there's a cot in several, like.
Yeah, but he made it there. He made it his, like, temporary home?
Yeah, I was staying, like, the night or something. I don't know to the extent.
Yeah. But he should have his own place in California. That's kind of common, right? You would have your own place in California and you would stay there during the week and you just bolt out of there.
Yeah. Again, they wanted it to be some sort of criminal thing. And I'm like, this isn't a criminal thing. This is you need to figure out what's allowed, what's not allowed, but it's all policies and procedures.
Yeah.
I don't see that being a criminal thing.
Why is this? What does it say? Anthony, when do you go live?
Anthony, when this is from your page.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I think they're asking, like, are you going to start going live? Because you're live right now on your channel and you probably don't do this.
Oh,
so they want to know when you're going to make this more of a regular thing.
Right. When, like, it's almost like, when did you start going live?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what they're asking. Of course, I'm speculating.
Maybe we'll do this more, maybe.
Hey, yeah. Well, we can definitely do it remotely if you can't make it here every time. But yeah, for sure. One of the things that I have been wanting to have is a legal portion of what we got going on. So,
is it illegal to film someone peeing in public if it's legal to pee?
See, what? Mayflower. Mayflower has asked some weird questions before. So he says, is it illegal to film someone peeing in public if it's legal to pee in public?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure it's legal to pee in public anywhere.
Yeah,
unless you're in San Francisco.
As I said, I don't think it's legal, but maybe what they're getting at is body cam footage.
Yeah, maybe. But look, right to be, right to see. I mean,
I cup.
Yeah, there's also
ICUP.
Yeah, I see. That's actually I didn't hear that.
It's old school.
Heard that. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, let me see. Anthony, I would love to have you clear up my misconceptions sometimes. I am always wanting to learn, especially from people I disagree with. Yeah. So what we can do is we can get, I'll get you your own channel on our Discord. And then like you can literally have Discord on your phone. And if you ever feel like popping in and seeing questions people have asked you, there's no rush. So if you answer it 2 weeks later, it's not a big deal. But yeah, we can get Anthony a channel. We'll make it a blue to gold channel and be a free little advertisement thing for y'all as well too. So all right. We're at 2.5 hours, which is usually about our limit. I want to guys, Anthony trains cops. That's what he does. And who the hell is bumping in? I think Alan's behind the scenes fucking with me. So he is able to get police trained in search and seizure and all that stuff. So if you guys want to be able to do that, and get the police, or you want to recommend, I'm going to actually pull it up right now. Let's go to
bluetogold.com or
yes. This is Bluetooth, so it takes it a second from this distance. There we go.
There we go.
Blue
TO.
Let me see. Bluetooth Gold.
Nope. Okay. Bluetogold.com.
Yeah, I'll just do it. I knew it'd be the top guy.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to share this screen. Remind me later. Share screen.
You just X that out. Yep.
All right, guys. So what we're looking at here is the Blue to Gold page. If you need to call or contact any of them, obviously it's all up at the top. We got the training going. I'll let you talk about your page.
Yeah. So look, I mean, we have about 170 classes scheduled right now across the U.S. As I said before, we're the largest search and seizure instructors in the nation by far. Nobody even comes close. We have a search and seizure book for every state. Go down a little bit. You see the map right there. It'll populate. That's something wrong with that map right there. It should actually have more pins, right? But usually has all the classes pinned out. But so yeah, we have.
Well, it's the end of the year.
That might be it, but usually it does all of them. But that could be. It could be the end of the year. I don't know why it would be.
It's probably showing what's remaining for the year.
Actually, you're probably right. We have an IT guy that's full time. He might have programmed it that way, but I don't know why he would. But anyway, so
look, that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah, interesting. So somebody's gonna get fired.
We just called him out.
Yeah, totally.
My bad.
But we have also a YouTube channel where we have 1,400 videos on there about search and seizure. We do free webinars as well every week. So I do like talking about these topics. Great instructors. This is our jam. I mean, search and seizure is our jam. This is what we are known for. We do a lot of agency-wide training, which is like a really big thing now. We talked about our agencies taking this seriously. Things are getting a lot better.
Yeah.
And so
why do you kind of look like Keanu?
I don't that or something else, but I hate
you kind of look like Keanu.
Yeah, maybe a certain version of him, but it's a dumb picture. I'm not photogenic, so the AI stuff that the program they use
that looks like you.
That's better.
That's better.
But my instructors look really good. Like you go, anyway. So
I like it. it. So yeah, guys, this is the Blue to Gold page. Make sure you check that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks like we got some books here.
Yep.
That you guys can subscribe to as well. I always like to make sure we plug that stuff.
Yeah, but if you have a search and seizure question, we're the go-to guys.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Very cool. I will try to get. We're getting some more questions in chat in here. Suggestion. He says, his looks to the left.
Oh, I see what he's saying.
Oh, because here you go.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at each other.
Yeah, that's actually next time,
Yeah.
Get
what it is.
Yeah, get your act together.
Live and learn.
No, that's actually that is actually a good pro move right there. That's a good pro move.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't paying attention to that part.
Yep.
My bad. Yeah. But cool. All right. Yeah, I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything else in the chat. So it's Anthony's fault. Join us in the Discord. Yep. Absolutely. Cool. All right, guys. We're going to end it here. Again, Anthony, thanks for being out here. Everybody in the chat, thank you very much for joining us on this impromptu. It's not impromptu. We knew we were going to do this, but
it wasn't scripted at all.
It wasn't. This is a bonus, and we just freestyled it, and I think it is what it is. Here's money for new mic. I don't think our mics are messed up. I think there's something that is interfering with the signal. That's all. Just got to figure out what it is, but thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Everybody that supported the channel today. Shout out to our sponsors, Peregrine.io, turning all of the crappiest detectives in the world into Sherlock Holmes. Shout out to Ghost Patch. Let me grab Ghost Patch. They make these flex shields. So Ghost Patch Customs. This looks metal to you, correct? Yeah. So it's not. It's bendy, flexy, and it is Velcro. They also do coins and patches and badges, like the badge that you guys always see on my vest. That's a metal badge. It's a real badge. So shout out to them. And yeah, that's it. And Retro Rifle, as I'm sporting my Retro Rifle shirt right now. So shout out to all those guys. Everybody else, thanks for joining, and take it easy.